The snow was coming down so hard the mountain road had almost vanished when retired Navy SEAL Owen Mercer saw a woman dragging a soaked mattress through the whiteout, a little girl stumbling beside her with grocery bags in both hands. Then his canine bishop barked 3 sharp times, and Owen recognized the woman he had spent 20 years trying not to remember. The storm over McCall, Idaho had teeth. It came down from the dark shoulders of the mountains in hard white sheets, swallowing the pines, softening the road signs, erasing the edges of the world until even the yellow center line looked like something imagined by a tired man. Owen Mercer drove with both hands on the wheel of his old black pickup, the heater groaning, the windshield wipers fighting a battle they were losing, one sweep at a time. Beside him, Bishop sat upright in the passenger seat with the stiff dignity of a soldier who had never agreed with retirement. The German shepherd's sable coat was dusted with melted snow from their last stop, his black saddle dark against the gray light. One ear whole and one ear nicked from a piece of shrapnel in a country Owen rarely named out loud. Bishop's nose worked the air coming through the cracked window. Owen noticed. He always noticed Bishop before he noticed himself. That habit had kept him alive more than once, and it had kept other men alive too, though not all of them. Never all of them. The road curved past a stand of lodgepole pine bent low under the weight of fresh snow, and Bishop's body changed. It was small at first, a tightening through the shoulders, a stillness in the tail, the old working dog vanishing under the skin of the pet Owen pretended he had become. Then came the sound. 3 short barks, not excited, not playful. A report. Owen lifted his foot from the gas before his mind found a reason. "Easy," he said, though his own pulse had already stepped out of rhythm. Bishop barked once more and slammed one paw against the dashboard, claws clicking on the worn plastic. Owen leaned forward, squinting through the white. At first there was nothing but snow and the ghostly trunks of trees. Then a shape moved at the edge of the road, bent nearly double beneath something wide and sagging. Owen eased the truck closer and felt the air leave his lungs. A woman was dragging a mattress through the storm. Not carrying it, not exactly. She had it wrapped in a blue tarp that had split at one corner, rope crossing her chest and shoulders, her body leaning forward like a pilgrim in an old painting. The mattress had soaked up snow melt until it moved like a dead animal behind her, catching on crusted ruts, lurching, stopping, forcing her to jerk it free with both hands. Her coat was too thin for that weather, the kind of green wool coat a person kept wearing after it stopped being useful, because replacing it required money that had already been promised to heat, food, medicine, rent, something more urgent than warmth. Her boots were not winter boots. Owen saw that next. Rubber soles cracked near the sides, bad traction. Dangerous. Then he saw the child. She was small, 4, maybe, though the snow made everyone look smaller and older at once. Pale hair escaped from under a pink knit cap. Her cheeks were raw red. She carried 2 plastic grocery bags, one in each hand, and every few steps one of the bags brushed the snow and nearly pulled her off balance. She did not cry. That made Owen's throat tighten more than crying would have. Children who cried still believed someone would answer. Children who went quiet had already done arithmetic in their bones. Bishop whined low and sharp and pressed his nose against the window. Owen slowed until the truck crawled beside them, at a distance, tires whispering over packed snow. The woman did not look up. She kept moving with the terrible determination of somebody who had made one promise and was using it to keep all the others from falling apart. Owen should have pulled over. Any decent person would have. Any trained rescuer, any former SEAL, any man with dry gloves and a working heater and a dog in the passenger seat who could find a buried child under 6 feet of powder would have stopped immediately and helped. Owen's hand moved toward the hazard lights. Then the woman lifted her head to adjust the rope across her shoulder, and time came apart. The snow between them thinned for half a second. He saw the line of her mouth, the stubborn lift of her chin, the way she blinked against wind instead of turning away from it. Megan Hartley. The name did not arrive like a thought. It arrived like impact. Owen's right hand clenched on the wheel until his knuckles whitened. The truck drifted a few inches toward the shoulder, and Bishop gave a warning huff, as if to remind him that shock was not a driving technique approved by any branch of the service. Owen corrected, swallowed, and stared. 21 years had passed since he had known that face, by morning light and porch light, by summer fair fireworks, by the weak gold glow of the diner where they used to split one slice of pie because neither of them had enough money for two. 21 years since a 17-year-old girl with brown gold hair had told him to leave McCall and chase the Navy if that was the thing burning a hole in his chest. 21 years since he had promised to come back. Promises were easy when a boy made them beside a lake in July. They became heavier in deserts, on ships, in hospital rooms, in years stacked behind classified briefings, and funerals where nobody said the dead man's real work. Owen had come back once, 4 years ago, for his uncle's burial, and he had seen Megan then in a roadside cafe after midnight, both of them older, both of them bruised by lives they had not explained well. They had talked too long. They had laughed once, badly, as if laughing were a skill they had forgotten. He had left before dawn because grief made a coward of him, and orders were waiting on the coast, or so he had told himself. Now she was in front of him, dragging a mattress through a mountain storm while a little girl trudged beside her with groceries. Bishop turned his head and looked at Owen. It was a look Owen knew, not accusation, worse, expectation. "I see her," Owen whispered. His voice sounded rough in the cab. "I see them." He drove past slowly, far enough not to spray them with slush, then pulled onto a turnout partly buried under plowed snow. He sat there with the engine running and watched in the mirror. Megan did not pause. The child did, though. She looked at the truck with the flat curiosity of someone too tired to be afraid. Bishop's breath fogged the glass. Owen reached for the door handle, then stopped. He could still hear Megan at 19, laughing with flour on her cheek in her mother's kitchen, saying, "I don't need rescuing, Owen Mercer. I need people to quit deciding what kind of help I should want." He had loved that about her then. He feared it now. A man did not disappear for years, reappear in a storm, and expect the woman he had hurt to accept his hand like a blessing. That was not help. That was invasion dressed as kindness. Still the child, the mattress, the temperature dropping so fast the old truck's outside gauge blinked 8 degrees. Owen shoved the gear shift into drive and followed at a careful distance, keeping the truck's lights low behind the curtain of snow. Bishop did not relax. The dog stood with his front paws braced, ears forward, every inch of him locked on the 2 figures ahead. "You are not subtle," Owen muttered. Bishop sneezed once, offended, and Owen almost smiled. Almost. The road narrowed after half a mile, losing the county's attention. Plowed ridges became uneven walls, the pines leaned closer, the houses thinned, then vanished, leaving only mailbox posts hunched like frozen old men along the ditch. Megan and the child turned onto a lane Owen would have missed if Bishop had not whined. It was barely a lane at all. Just 2 tracks pressed into snow under a sagging arch of fir branches. Owen waited until they were far enough ahead and turned in after them, his tires slipping before finding purchase. The truck groaned. Snow brushed both sides. He killed the headlights and rolled forward on parking lamps, feeling ridiculous and ashamed and unable to stop. At the end of the lane stood a cabin that looked less built than endured. The roof sagged under a thick cap of snow. One corner of the porch had collapsed, leaving the steps tilted like broken teeth. Plastic sheeting covered one window from the inside, ballooning and snapping with each gust. Smoke rose from a crooked stovepipe in thin, nervous breaths. There were no tire tracks in the yard, only footprints packed and repacked by small feet and larger ones. Megan reached the doorway and stopped. For one moment she stood completely still. The rope across her shoulders, the blue tarp at her back, the child pressed against her side. Owen watched her bend slowly, painfully, and free herself from the load. The mattress hit the snow with a wet thud. The child dropped one grocery bag, then tried to pick it up with fingers stiff inside blue mittens. One mitten had a white star sewn on the back by hand. Owen saw it because Bishop's nose had smeared a clear oval in the window, and the world had narrowed itself to small, unbearable details. Megan crouched and took the child's hands between her own, breathing warmth into the mittens. The gesture was so tender, so ordinary that Owen had to look away. He had seen men die with less courage than that. The cabin door opened with a shove. Warmth did not spill out, only dimness. Megan pushed the mattress inside inch by inch, then guided the child over the threshold and disappeared after her. The door closed. The storm filled the space where they had been. Owen sat behind the wheel with both hands still gripping it, engine idling, heater blowing against his boots. He had carried weapons through alleys where every window was a mouth. He had stepped out of helicopters into black ocean. He had held pressure on a friend's wound while promising falsely that help was close. None of it had prepared him for the sight of Megan Hartley living in a cabin that could not keep out winter. Bishop made a sound deep in his chest. Not a bark this time. A rumble. Owen looked over. The dog had fixed on the cabin, body rigid. "What is it?" Owen asked. Bishop did not look away. Owen shut off the engine. The sudden quiet rang in his ears. He stepped out into snow up to his shins, the cold striking his face with clean violence. Bishop leapt down beside him and immediately pulled toward the cabin, nose low, following something Owen could not see. "Heel," Owen whispered. Bishop obeyed for 3 steps, then stopped at the north side of the yard and sat. Flat. Immovable. This was Bishop's other language, the one Owen trusted most. When Bishop sat like that, he was not refusing an order. He was giving one. Owen crouched beside him. The snow there had drifted against the cabin wall. Beneath the drift, half buried near the foundation, a dark stain showed through. Not blood, not fresh, more like wet rot seeping from wood that had been damp too long. Bishop sniffed once, then turned his head toward the child's window, covered in plastic. Owen smelled it then, faint, even in the cold, mold, damp insulation. A cabin sick from the inside. He closed his eyes. "Not tonight," he whispered, though he did not know whether he was speaking to the dog, to God, or to the part of himself that wanted to kick the door open and start fixing everything with soldiers' hands and civilian panic. The door remained closed. Somewhere inside, a child coughed. One small cough, then another. Bishop's ears flattened. Owen stood slowly, snow gathering on his shoulders, and understood with a clarity that felt like pain that whatever had brought him back to McCall was no longer about an old promise or an old love. A woman had dragged a mattress through a blizzard because there was no one she trusted enough to call. A child was sleeping in a house that smelled of mold and wet wood. And his dog, who had found bombs bodies and frightened boys under rubble, had just planted himself in the snow as if to say the mission had already begun. Owen backed away before Megan could see him through the plastic window. He returned to the truck on legs that felt too heavy for the rest of him, Bishop pacing beside him with impatient steps. At the lane's mouth he stopped and looked back once. The cabin was nearly gone in the storm now, only one faint square of yellow light breathing against the white. Then that light flickered. Once. Twice. It went out. Morning came to McCall without warmth. The storm had moved east before dawn, leaving the town under a white silence so complete that every sound seemed guilty of disturbing it. Snow lay in high, soft walls along the sidewalks, balanced on shop awnings piled over the hoods of parked cars, smoothing the world into something gentle until a person remembered how cold could kill without ever raising its voice. Owen Mercer slept less than an hour in the cabin he had inherited from his uncle, a one-room place with a wood stove, 2 folding chairs, and boxes he had not yet opened because unpacking suggested an intention to stay. Bishop slept by the door, or pretended to. Twice in the night, Owen woke to find the dog sitting upright, ears lifted toward the north, toward the lane where Megan Hartley and her little girl had vanished into darkness. At 5:30, Owen gave up on sleep. He built the fire, made coffee strong enough to float a horseshoe, and stood by the window while the sky turned the dull blue of old steel. Bishop leaned against his leg. Not affection exactly. Pressure. A reminder. "I know," Owen said. "We are going." Bishop's tail moved once businesslike. By 7, Owen had cleared the truck, driven into town, and parked outside Miller's General, the only store in McCall that still opened before sunrise, because June Miller believed coffee should be available to the troubled, the plow drivers, the fishermen, and anyone whose conscience had kept him awake. A bell over the door gave a tired jingle as Owen stepped in. Heat struck his face, carrying the smell of burnt coffee, cinnamon rolls, floor wax, wet wool, and the faint medicinal scent of liniment from the old men who gathered near the bait freezer to discuss weather as if weather might apologize. Bishop entered at heel, snow melting from his paws onto the rubber mat. June Miller looked up from behind the counter. She was small and square and silver-haired, with reading glasses on a chain, and a red cardigan that had seen enough winters to deserve a pension. "Dogs are not allowed in the produce aisle," she said. Bishop sat. June studied him. "Unless they have better manners than half my customers." Owen touched 2 fingers to his cap. "He does, ma'am, most days." Bishop looked offended again, which June noticed, and her mouth twitched. "Military dog?" "Retired. Both of you?" Owen did not answer right away. June's eyes sharpened. In a town like McCall, curiosity was not a hobby. It was a public utility. "Owen Mercer," he said. "My uncle was Ray Mercer. I am fixing up his place off Warren Wagon Road." June came around the counter faster than her years suggested and took his hand in both of hers. "Ray's boy. Well, not boy, look at you. Ray talked about you every time a Navy story came on television. Said you were off doing secret brave things he was not allowed to ask about but asked about anyway." Owen looked down, a smile moving and failing on his face. "That sounds like him. He was a stubborn man with a kind pocket. Kept loose change for children and hard candy for ladies he thought looked sad." She glanced at Bishop. "And jerky for dogs, though he claimed it was for himself." Bishop's ears lifted with solemn interest. "I will pay for whatever he takes," Owen said. "Then he may take nothing until I decide whether I like you." June said it so flatly that Owen could not tell if she was joking. She poured him coffee without asking, set it on the counter, then pointed to the window booth. "You have the face of a man who came to ask about somebody and does not know how to do it without stepping on his own tongue. Sit." Owen had faced interrogations with less accuracy. He sat. Bishop settled under the booth but kept his nose angled toward the door. June brought her own coffee and lowered herself across from him. "Megan Hartley," she said. Owen's fingers tightened around the cup. "You saw me yesterday. Half the town saw your truck yesterday. Black pickup, out-of-state plates, driving like a man following a funeral procession nobody else could see. And this morning you walked in with that look. Men only look that way over war daughters or women they failed." Owen stared into the coffee. "All 3, maybe." June's expression changed, not softened exactly, but made room. "Then ask." Owen kept his voice low. "I saw her in the storm, Megan, with a little girl. They were dragging a mattress." June closed her eyes for one tired second. "Of course she was. She would rather drag a waterlogged mattress through a blizzard than let me send Pete from the plow crew to help. Said Pete had a bad knee and she would not be responsible for him slipping. That woman could be bleeding from both ears and still worry about somebody else's knee." "Where is she living?" "You followed her far enough to know the direction." "I did." The admission tasted bad. "I did not want to frighten her." And yet here you are asking me. Because the cabin smelled of mold from outside. June looked at Bishop, then back at Owen. He catch that? He did. Good dog. Bishop thumped his tail once under the table. June took off her glasses and rubbed the bridge of her nose. Megan lives out past the old logging spur, in a cabin that belonged to a cousin of a cousin. Nobody has claimed it proper in years. She pays a little cash to a man who should be ashamed to take it, but shame does not plow driveways or buy cigarettes, apparently. Owen's jaw moved. Why does a proud woman live in a bad cabin with a child? Because this town ate her name and left the bones. June's voice had lost its teasing edge. 4 years ago, Megan kept books for Dawson Timber Lodge. Payroll, winter vendor accounts, fuel invoices, guide fees, all of it. She was good, too. Neatest church linen. Then money went missing from the winter maintenance account. Mason Dawson said Megan had skimmed it. Frank Dawson backed him. Frank has money in Timber Lodge rooms, rental cabins, county committees, and more pockets than a pool table. When Frank says a woman stole, folks who know better suddenly find the floor very interesting. Owen listened without moving. He had learned long ago that anger had weight. If he let it rise too fast, it made him clumsy. Was there proof? There was noise. Sometimes that is enough around here. June's mouth hardened. Megan swore she did not take a dime, asked for an independent audit. The sheriff said it was a civil matter unless the Dawsons wanted to press charges. They threatened to, then let it hang over her instead. Smarter that way. No trial means no chance for her to clear herself, just whispers, canceled jobs, people crossing the street, mothers suddenly too busy to let their children play with hers, though Lily was barely walking then. Owen heard the name, and the room narrowed. Lily. June watched him carefully. Yes, Lily. How old? 4. The words settled between them like a loaded weapon. Owen did the math again, though he had already done it all night. 4 years ago, after Ray's funeral, a cafe after midnight, snow then too, but lighter. Megan's laugh breaking once into tears, his own hand on her cheek, dawn coming too soon. The deployment call already waiting on his phone, his cowardice dressed up as duty. You know, June said softly. It was not a question. Owen swallowed. I know enough to be afraid of what I do not know. That is the first sensible thing you have said. June leaned back. Megan tried to reach you once before Lily was born. I know because she used my phone, twice. The first number was dead. The second belonged to some office in Virginia Beach where a woman told her there was no Owen Mercer available. Megan hung up before leaving a message. Said if a man wanted to be found, he would leave a trail. I told her life is messier than that. She told me I was welcome to knit that on a pillow. Owen almost laughed, but it hurt too much. Bishop's head appeared beside the table, eyes moving from June to Owen. I changed numbers, Owen said. Moved, deployed, classified addresses. I did not think... He stopped. There was no good ending to that sentence. I did not think of her enough. I did not think my absence had consequences. I did not think a promise could still be alive in somebody else's body after I had buried it under work. June read all of that and spared him the dignity of not saying it. You cannot charge into her life with medals and guilt. I know, do you? Because men with guilt often mistake speed for sincerity. Megan has survived 4 years by keeping control of the few things left to her. Her child, her work, her refusal to be pitied. You barge in, she will bolt so hard she will leave boot prints on your chest. Owen nodded once. Then what do I do now? June looked toward the front windows where snowplows growled past orange lights, turning the glass gold. Start with respect. A real reason to speak to her, no charity, no savior act. If you are staying, stay where people can see you. Let time testify before your mouth does. And if you offer work, make it honest, paid, documented. She was a bookkeeper before the Dawsons poisoned that well. still sharper with numbers than Mason Dawson on his best day and sober, which is not a small advantage. Owen filed each detail the way he had once filed mission intelligence. Not coldly, carefully. Would she take work from me? June snorted. Not if she thinks you invented it to help her. I am opening a winter search and rescue training site. At least, that was the plan. Canine tracking, avalanche response, survival courses for guides and sheriff departments. It will need books. There, June said, pointing at him with her coffee spoon. Truth. Use that. But do not use it today. Today she is tired, cold, and mortified because you saw her at her lowest. Give her a few hours to hate you in peace. Owen's mouth tightened. I did not want that. Nobody ever wants to be the witness. The bell over the door jingled. A man in a Dawson Timber Lodge jacket stepped in, glanced at Owen, glanced at Bishop, and turned toward the coffee urn. The store changed by 1 degree. June noticed. Owen noticed June noticing. Bishop noticed everything. The man's phone buzzed. He answered in a low voice, but Owen caught enough. No, I have not seen her this morning. Just some veteran-looking guy with a dog. Yeah, big dog. He looked over again quickly, then away. Owen kept his face empty. After the man left, June said nothing for nearly a minute. Then she stood, went behind the counter, and wrote something on the back of a receipt. She folded it once and slid it across the table. That is the old logging spur. You did not get it from me. Owen did not touch it yet. Why are you helping me? June's eyes shone with irritation, which seemed to be how she handled tenderness. Because yesterday Megan Hartley dragged a mattress through a blizzard while half this town pretended not to see. Because that child likes oatmeal cookies and draws stars on every scrap of paper she finds. Because Ray Mercer once fixed my furnace for free and lied that he needed the practice. And because your dog has been staring at that door as if evil might walk in wearing boots. Bishop sneezed. June reached into a jar and tossed him a strip of jerky. He caught it mid-air, then looked at Owen, asking permission after the crime was complete. Traitor, Owen murmured. For one breath, the booth held something like warmth. Then June leaned closer. Listen to me, Owen Mercer. If you are Lily's father, that child does not need a hero for a week. She needs a man who can be boringly reliable for the next 40 years. Doctor appointments, bad dreams, school plays where she forgets her line and waves anyway. Broken sinks, grocery lists, ordinary things. Can you do ordinary? Owen looked at the folded receipt. He thought of raids planned to the second, of ocean insertions of medals locked in a drawer, of coming home to rooms where nobody had moved his coffee mug because nobody else lived there. I do not know, he said honestly. But I can learn. June studied him for a long time, then she nodded as if honesty had passed some private checkpoint. Good. Learn quietly. Outside, snow began falling again, lighter now, patient as ash. Owen picked up the receipt and put it in his coat pocket. Bishop rose before he did, already facing the door, already sure the road ahead mattered. Owen paid for coffee, jerky, 2 bags of groceries he did not yet know how to offer without insulting anyone, and a pair of child-sized wool socks with little white stars around the cuffs. He stood by the counter too long with the socks in his hand. June took them from him, rang them up, and said, "Those are for your truck emergency kit." "Right," Owen said. "Emergency kit. Men are helpless without women naming their lies properly." Bishop gave a low woof that sounded too much like agreement. Owen left the store with the address in his pocket and the weight of it against his chest. Across the street, above the snow-caked roofs, a wooden sign for Dawson Timber Lodge swung in the wind, polished, expensive, untouched by the storm. A black SUV rolled slowly past the store, its windows tinted, its tires too new for the old road. Bishop stopped on the sidewalk and stared after it until it turned the corner. Owen felt the old mission map forming in his mind, one line at a time.
though this time the objective was not a compound or a hostage room or a target behind a locked door. It was a woman who might never forgive him, a little girl who might be his daughter.
In a town that had learned to look away so neatly it probably called the habit peace. He had the address now. He also had June's warning, and it stayed with him as clearly as any command he had ever received. Megan would close the door if he came with pity. She might close it anyway. By noon, the snow had thinned to a glittering mist, but the cold sharpened. It tightened the air over McCall until every breath felt carved, every sound carried farther than it should. Owen parked half a mile from Megan's cabin, not because he wanted to sneak like a fool through the trees, but because June's voice had followed him from town with the persistence of church bells. Do not barge in. Do not make pity look like rescue. Let her have control where she can. He left the grocery bags in the truck. He left the wool socks in the glove compartment where they sat like evidence of a crime he had not yet committed. He took only Bishop's leash and a folder with the first clean page of a work proposal for the rescue training site, nothing filled out, no numbers yet, only proof that the job was real and not something invented at a counter by a man drowning in guilt. Bishop jumped down into the snow and shook himself once. "We are walking in calm," Owen told him. Bishop looked toward the cabin and pulled with such professional calm that Owen slid 3 inches. "That is not calm." Bishop ignored the critique. The lane was quiet except for branches dropping little avalanches onto the powder below. The cabin appeared between trees, more wounded in daylight than it had looked in the storm. Daylight had no mercy. It showed the plywood patch near the roofline, the warped porch boards, the woodpile covered by a tarp with holes in it, the chimney pipe wired upright with baling wire. Smoke rose thin but steady. Someone had fought hard for that smoke. Lily saw Bishop first. Owen had expected a curtain to move, maybe Megan's voice from inside, maybe silence. Instead, the cabin door opened 6 inches and the little girl stepped onto the porch, wrapped in a blanket that trailed behind her like a royal cloak from a kingdom of very poor decisions. She froze when she saw Owen, but her eyes went straight to the dog. Bishop sat without being told. That did more for Owen's nerves than any prayer he could have managed. "Hi," Lily said. Her voice was small but not shy. Curious. A tiny bell in a frozen yard. "Hi," Owen answered. He crouched, keeping distance. "This is Bishop." Lily looked at the dog with solemn wonder. "Is he a wolf?" Bishop's ears lifted. "He would like you to think so." Lily considered that. "Mama says wolves don't wear leashes." "Your mama is right." "He has a broken ear." "He says it makes him handsome." Lily's mouth twitched. It was not a full smile, but it was close enough to make Owen's chest hurt. Bishop stayed perfectly still, though. His tail betrayed him with one careful sweep through the snow. Lily stepped down one porch stair. "Can I pet him?" "If your mother says it is all right." The words had barely left his mouth when the door opened wider. Megan Hartley stood there with one hand braced on the frame and the other holding a dish towel so tightly her knuckles showed white. Up close, daylight gave Owen no place to hide from what time and hardship had done. She was 39, though exhaustion had tried to steal more years than that. Her brown blonde hair was tied back with a strip of faded cloth. Her face was thinner than the girl he remembered, the cheekbones sharper, the skin around her eyes bruised by bad sleep. But her eyes were the same. Brown, warm, once, now guarded with a kind of weary fire. Owen rose slowly. Bishop did not move. Megan looked from Owen to the dog, then to Lily, and the protective change in her body was instant. She became smaller and stronger at once. "Lily, inside." "But, Mama, the wolf dog is sitting." "Inside!" Lily's face fell, but she obeyed, dragging the blanket back through the doorway. Megan waited until the child disappeared, then stepped onto the porch and pulled the door mostly closed behind her. "What are you doing here?" Owen had prepared sentences. They had sounded reasonable in the truck, respectful, clear, not too emotional. They scattered now like birds startled from a roof. "Megan," he said. Her name came out rough, almost unfamiliar from disuse. Her eyes narrowed. She had not recognized him fully in the storm. He saw the moment she did now. It moved across her face in stages. Confusion, disbelief, pain, anger, arriving last because anger had learned the route. Owen. No greeting could have been flatter and still held so much history. Bishop looked up at him as if to say this was going well, in the way falling through ice was technically movement. Owen took one breath. "I saw you yesterday." Megan laughed once. It was a hard little sound, brittle enough to break. "Yes, I imagine half the county saw me. Nothing folks here like better than a free show." "I was driving by, of course you were. Men like you are always driving by at the exact moment a woman would rather be invisible." Owen accepted that because it was true enough to bleed. "I should have stopped. Why didn't you?" He looked at the warped porch board between them. "Because I remembered you hate being cornered by help you did not ask for." That struck something. Her mouth tightened, not in forgiveness, but in recognition. "You remembered that?" "I remembered a lot." "How convenient. Did you remember writing calling coming back before now?" The wind moved snow from the roof in a soft hiss. Owen did not defend himself. Not yet. A younger version of him would have explained deployments, numbers changed grief, orders all the machinery that had carried him away. The man standing in the snow knew explanations could become a fence around responsibility. "No answer I give makes 21 years less real." Megan's eyes flashed. 21 years. You can count, that's nice." Bishop sneezed violently directly into the tension. Lily giggled from behind the door, then went silent, as if she had been caught stealing joy. Megan's face flickered. Owen saw the mother in her fight the hurt woman and win by half an inch. "Why are you really here?" she asked. "Not nostalgia, not because you happened to see me humiliating myself with a mattress. You were not humiliating yourself. Do not—" Her voice sharpened. "Do not dress it up. I know what I looked like. You looked cold," Owen said. "Tired, stronger than you should have to be, and alone." The last word landed badly. Megan stepped back. "There it is. Pity. No, I know pity, Owen. People here serve it with their coffee. Poor Megan, proud Megan, stubborn Megan. If only she'd learned to smile after being called a thief. If only she'd made better choices. If only she were easier to help." Her fingers twisted the dish towel. "I do not need one more person standing in my yard feeling noble because my roof leaks." Owen forced his hands open at his sides. The instinct to fix was almost physical, like an itch under bone. "I came because I am opening a winter search and rescue training site. Canine tracking avalanche response survival instruction. It needs bookkeeping, real work, paid, documented. June said you were the best person in town for numbers." Megan stared at him. Then she laughed again, lower, this time, sadder. "June Miller has a mouth bigger than the lake." She said that too about herself. For half a second, Megan almost smiled. It vanished before it could become mercy. "You think I am going to work for you? I think you deserve an offer based on what you can do, not what people said you did." That changed the air. Megan went still. Snowflakes caught in her eyelashes. "Who told you?" "June told me some, not all. And now you want to hire the town thief to keep your books? I do not believe you stole anything." She looked away so fast he knew the words had hurt. Not because they were cruel, because they were too late. Belief is easy from a man who was not here when it mattered. Owen nodded. "Yes." The simple answer unsettled her. He saw it. She had expected argument, maybe pride, maybe the old Owen who could turn any challenge into a contest and grin while doing it. That boy had been charming and useless in equal measures. He had grown into a man with scars, but scars did not automatically make wisdom. He was trying to choose it now. The door opened wider. Lily slipped out again, blanket gone, blue mittens on her hands. One mitten had a white star sewn crookedly on the back. Bishop's tail moved. Lily looked up at Megan. "Mama, can the wolf dog be cold?" "He is fine," Megan said, but her voice softened. "He has fur. My toes have socks and they still get cold." Bishop, perhaps sensing a legal argument in progress, flopped onto his side in the snow and exposed his belly with scandalous abandon. Lily gasped. Owen closed his eyes briefly. "Bishop," he said. The dog did not move. Megan stared. Lily began to laugh, a bright bubbling sound that seemed too warm for the yard. "He wants snow angels. He wants attention," Owen said. "He is shameless." Bishop's tail swept a perfect arc in the snow. Megan's mouth trembled, fighting a smile and losing for one dangerous second. Owen felt that second like sunlight through a crack. Then Lily stepped closer to Bishop and the angle of her face turned toward him. Owen stopped breathing. Her eyes were gray-blue, not quite his, not quite Megan's, but unmistakably the pale storm color of his mother Evelyn's eyes. The same eyes that had looked at him from a hospital bed 8 years ago and told him there were different kinds of courage, son, and one day he might try the kind that stayed. Lily's eyes, Evelyn's eyes. The world narrowed to a small face above blue mittens. Megan saw him see it. The change in her was immediate. She caught Lily gently by the shoulder and drew her back. "Inside, baby." "But Bishop is silly." "Inside, now." Lily's laughter faded. She obeyed, confusion creasing her forehead. When the door closed behind her, the yard became colder than before. Owen's voice came out carefully, but not careful enough. "How old is she, Megan?" Her face drained. "Do not. I need to know. No, Owen. You need a lot of things. You do not need to stand in my yard and start doing math out loud. Is she mine?" Megan flinched as if he had thrown something. For a heartbeat, he hated himself more than he hated any enemy he had ever named. "I am sorry," he said quickly. "That was not fair." "Fair." Megan whispered the word with a terrible little smile. "You want fair now?" She stepped down one stair, close enough that he could see the chapped skin at the corner of her mouth, the small scar on one thumb. The woman and the girl she had been occupying the same wounded space. "You left McCall with promises in your pocket. I wrote letters until they came back. I called numbers until strangers got tired of explaining you were not there. Then you appeared 4 years ago for one night, wearing grief like armor, and disappeared again before breakfast. I found out I was pregnant after the Dawson accusation had already turned half this town against me. So tell me, Owen, at what point exactly was I supposed to chase you down between losing my job and being called a thief, between morning sickness and court threats, between choosing whether to buy formula or propane?" Owen stood motionless. Each question entered cleanly, no wasted force. Bishop had risen now, no longer playing standing between them, but angled toward Lily's door like a guard posted at the edge of a breaking world. "I did not know," Owen said. It was small. It was true. It was not enough. "Because you made not knowing easy." Megan's eyes filled, but the tears did not fall. She had too much practice holding weather inside. "Go home, Owen." "Megan, no, please." That word did what anger had not. Please. It took the fight out of him. She wrapped her arms around herself. "I cannot do this with Lily listening through the door. I cannot have you walk in and pull her life apart because you suddenly decided the past still has a pulse. She is my daughter. She is safe because I made her safe even when safe looked like a bad cabin and cheap soup and me lying awake all night listening to the roof. She should not have to live like this." The sentence left him before he could soften it. Megan's face closed. "There. That is why you need to leave." He stepped back.
I meant the house, not you. You do not get to separate them yet. The truth of that stopped him. He nodded once. I will go. Something flickered in her eyes, surprise, maybe, or disappointment she would never admit. Good. But I am not disappearing, her jaw tightened. Your promises wore out years ago. Then I will not ask you to trust one. Owen looked toward the door where Lily's shadow moved behind the thin curtain. I will be in town.
I will keep the work offer open. No pressure. If you need anything for Lily, you can tell June. She does not have to say it came from me. Megan gave him a look fierce enough to cut rope. Do not use June to sneak charity into my kitchen. Bishop huffed. Owen almost said, I deserve that, but he only nodded again. Understood. He turned before he said something desperate. Bishop did not follow. The dog walked to the porch, lowered his nose to a snowdrift beside the bottom step, and began pawing. Bishop, leave it. Bishop pawed harder. Megan watched despite herself. Snow scattered. A strip of old wood emerged near the foundation, dark with age but protected under the overhang. Carved into it, faint but legible, were two letters inside a crooked heart. O and M. Owen remembered the summer they had carved it behind Ray's old shed, because Megan said lovers and books always carve trees, and she refused to wound a perfectly innocent pine. Megan saw it too. Her hand went to her mouth. For one breath, neither of them lived in the present. They were 17 and 18, smelling of lake water and sawdust, believing time was a road they could walk back down whenever they pleased. Then Lily coughed inside, and the present returned with the force of a door slamming. Megan stepped onto the porch and covered the carving with her boot. Go, she said, but her voice had changed. Owen clipped Bishop's leash back on with shaking fingers. The dog looked absurdly satisfied, as if he had completed a delicate diplomatic operation. They walked away through the snow. Owen did not look back until the trees hit him. When he did, Megan was still on the porch, one hand on the door, staring down at the place where old letters slept under fresh snow. That night the cold settled so deep over McCall that windows bloomed with frost on the inside. Owen sat at his uncle's table with the rescue site proposal in front of him and did not read a word of it. The wood stove clicked. The old wall clock ticked with the stubborn rhythm of a thing that believed time was simple. Bishop lay under the table, one paw on Owen's boot, which was either comfort or custody. Owen suspected both. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Megan's face when he asked if Lily was his. Not anger first. Pain. Anger had only stepped in afterward to protect what pain could not. He had spent half his adult life studying thresholds, doors, wires, windows, the small signs that told a man whether an entry would save lives or end them. Somehow he had walked straight through Megan's without permission. The thought made him push back from the table and stand too fast. Bishop lifted his head. I know, Owen said. Sitrep is bad. Bishop sighed, which from a retired military working dog sounded dangerously close to editorial judgment. Owen paced the cabin. On the shelf over the stove sat a photograph of Ray Mercer holding a lake trout and grinning like he had negotiated peace with nature. Ray had left the cabin to Owen with a note the lawyer had handed over after the funeral 4 years ago. The note was still folded in Owen's sea bag. Come home when running gets boring. Ray had been funny that way, able to hide a command inside a joke. Owen had not come home then. He had signed papers, sold a small parcel Ray owned near the marina, spent one night in town, seen Megan, and fled before the sunrise could ask questions. He told himself the Navy needed him. Maybe it had. But a man could be needed and still be afraid. He remembered Megan at the cafe that night, snow tapping the windows, neon trembling on wet pavement,
her hair shorter than it had been when they were young. She had worn a blue sweater with one cuff unraveled.
He had noticed because noticing her had once been as natural as breathing. She had asked about his life, and he had answered in careful pieces, leaving out the worst parts. He had asked about hers, and she had shrugged, said she was working books for Dawson Timber, said the town was the town, said not everyone got to see oceans. They had laughed. Then she had gone quiet and touched the small scar near his jaw. "You came back with ghosts," she had said. He had joked because jokes were easier than confession. She had not laughed that time. Later outside, grief and memory and loneliness had pulled them toward each other with the old force. He had told himself it was only one night. A mistake made tender by history, but Lily was not a mistake. Lily was a life. Lily with blue mittens and Evelyn's eyes asking if Bishop was a wolf. Owen gripped the back of the chair until the wood creaked. "We are going into town," he said. Bishop was on his feet before the sentence ended. June's church basement opened during hard cold as a warming room, though June called it the hospitality closet because she claimed people accepted blankets more easily when they sounded like church supplies. Owen found the place by the line of cars and the smell of soup leaking into the night. The basement was warm, low-ceilinged, crowded with folding tables, donated coats, and a dozen people who pretended they had come to help set up instead of to keep from freezing at home. A radio played old hymns softly near the kitchen. June moved through the room with a clipboard, directing teenagers, scolding a pastor twice her size, and handing out roles with the authority of a field commander. She saw Owen and pointed to a stack of firewood by the door. "If you are going to loom productively," he took off his coat and hauled wood without argument. Bishop stayed near the wall until a boy dropped a cracker off, at which point the dog performed cleanup with admirable speed and no visible remorse. Owen had carried 3 loads before he saw Megan. She sat at the far end of the room near a radiator, Lily curled against her side under a donated quilt. Megan had one arm around her daughter and the other hand wrapped around a paper cup of soup. Her eyes found Owen, and the room seemed to drop away. She did not look pleased. She did not leave. That felt like more mercy than he deserved. Bishop saw Lily and wagged once, slow and hopeful. Lily sat up. "Mama," she whispered loudly, "the wolf dog came to church." A few heads turned. June, passing with a tray, said, "That dog is better behaved than most deacons." The pastor said, "June, you know I am right." A small ripple of laughter moved through the room, and some of the tightness around Megan's mouth eased. Owen approached only halfway, then stopped. "May I sit over there?" he asked, nodding toward a chair, not beside them, but near enough to speak if invited. Megan studied him. Lily studied Bishop. Bishop studied Lily's role with deep spiritual hunger. "You can sit," Megan said. "The dog can sit farther from my daughter's dinner." Bishop looked wounded. Owen took the chair. For several minutes they said nothing. Silence in the cabin yard had been sharp. This silence had up human voices, the clink of spoons, June muttering threats at a coffee urn. It gave them a little cover. Lily slid off the bench and came to stand a safe distance from Bishop. "Does he know tricks?" "A few," Owen said. "Can he pray?" Owen blinked. Megan made a small, helpless sound that might have become laughter if she had allowed it. "He can bow his head," Owen said. "But he usually checks for snacks during the prayer." Lily considered this theology. "So does Mr. Halpern," June called from the kitchen. "Heard that!" This time Megan did laugh, brief and surprised. Owen looked down at his hands so she would not feel watched. Bishop, sensing permission from the general mood, if not from any actual human authority, lowered his head to his paws and sighed like a saint denied martyrdom. Lily returned to Megan's side. Her cough came, then small but wet, tucked into her sleeve. Megan's hand moved immediately to the child's back. Owen kept still. It cost him. After Lily settled, Megan spoke without looking at him. She gets worse when the cabin is damp. Bishop smelled mold. Megan's eyes flicked to him. Of course he did. He is trained for human scent, explosives, blood, stress, sweat, old burial sites when working with recovery teams, and mold if it is strong enough. That is a cheerful resume. He is terrible at tax preparation. Megan's mouth twitched. Then we all have limits. The little joke landed gently between them, and for a moment they were not enemies. Owen used the moment carefully. I am sorry for today. Megan looked into her soup. Which part? Asking about Lily like that. In the yard. I had no right to corner you. No, you did not. I saw her eyes and lost my footing. Megan's shoulders moved, almost a flinch. Your mother's eyes. He looked up. You remember? Evelyn Mercer used to buy peach jam from my mother every August and tell me my handwriting looked like a school teacher's. She had eyes like stormlight. Yes, Owen. I remember. He swallowed. The basement lights blurred for a second, and he looked toward Bishop until he could trust his face. Is Lily my daughter? Megan closed her eyes. Not angry this time. Tired. Yes. The word was quiet. It still filled the whole room. Owen did not move. He had imagined confirmation as a blow, but it felt stranger than that, like a door opening inside him onto a room that had always existed and had somehow been kept dark. Lily leaned against Megan, unaware that her life had just changed shape in a sentence spoken over soup in a church basement. Owen's hands trembled. He put them under the table. Megan saw anyway. Do not make a scene, she said. I am trying very hard not to. Good. Her voice was stern, but her eyes had softened by a fraction. She does not know, not yet. I told her some children have fathers who live far away, some do not, and families come in different sizes. I was not going to invent a dead man, that felt wrong. But I was not going to make you a bedtime story either. Thank you. Do not thank me. I did it for her, not you. I know. Lily looked between them. Why are grown-ups whispering? Megan kissed the top of her head. Because grown-ups are boring. Bishop is not boring. No, Megan said. Bishop is trouble with paws. Bishop's tail thumped, accepting the title. Owen leaned forward, elbows on knees, voice low. I will follow your lead, completely. When she learns, how she learns, what I am called. At first. All of it. I want to know her, I want to help, but I will not take choices from you. Megan's eyes searched his face with the suspicion of someone who had heard reasonable words before and paid dearly for them. You say that now. Yes. Words are weather, Owen. They change. Then watch what stays. She looked away. A hymn on the radio ended, replaced by static and then an old country song June immediately declared depressing and switched off. In the sudden quiet, wind pressed against the basement windows. Megan rubbed Lily's back again as another cough came. Owen felt each cough as a command he was not allowed to obey. The work offer is real, he said. No strings, no pressure. I will need bookkeeping if the training site opens. You would not report to me alone. Caleb Price, a retired JAG attorney I served with, is helping me establish the nonprofit side for sheriff departments and guide teams. He can write the contract. Clean boundaries. Megan looked at him, then sharper. You brought a lawyer into this? Not into you. Into my business. If you ever decide to talk about Dawson, he can tell you what is possible. If you never decide that, he will not ask. June told you everything. June told me enough to know I do not know everything. Megan's hand tightened around the paper cup. The Dawsons are not people you poke for sport. Frank Dawson owns favors in this town. Mason smiles like a man in a Christmas card and lies like he is breathing. They will not like your questions. I have been disliked by professionals. This is not war. No.
Owen's gaze moved to Lily. It matters more. Megan's eyes glistened. For a second, she looked so young he almost saw the girl by the lake again, but then she blinked and the woman returned, carrying all the years the girl had not been able to imagine. "I cannot fight them again," she whispered. "I barely survived the first time." "Then do not fight tonight." Owen's voice was quiet. "Tonight eat soup. Let Lily sit where it is warm. Tell me to stack wood until June runs out of things to criticize. Tomorrow can stay outside until morning." Megan looked at him, and something in her face shifted, not trust, not forgiveness, but exhaustion, laying down one small weapon. "June never runs out of things to criticize." "That is becoming clear." Lily held out half her roll toward Bishop. Megan said no. Owen said no. Bishop looked at June. June said absolutely not, while sliding a smaller roll into her apron pocket for later corruption. The moment was absurd and human, and it let them breathe. An hour later, when Owen carried the last stack of wood into the storage room, he found Bishop standing at the basement stairs, nose lifted toward the door. The dog gave 3 short barks. Owen's body answered before thought. Megan stood Lily in her arms. June frowned. Outside tires crunched over ice, and a man's voice drifted down from the open stairwell, polished and unwelcome. "I heard Megan Hartley was here." Megan went pale. Owen saw her fingers tighten around Lily. He did not know the voice yet, but he knew the effect of it. Bishop moved in front of the stairs, silent now, teeth just visible. June whispered one word like a curse. "Mason." Snow squeaked under boots at the top of the church basement stairs. The sound moved slowly, confidently, as if whoever was coming down believed every room in McCall had already made space for him. Owen stood near the wood closet, with a split log still in his hands. Bishop had taken position at the bottom step without command square and quiet. The kind of quiet that made trained men reconsider poor choices. Megan held Lily so tightly the child squirmed. June set down her ladle with a soft metallic click that seemed louder than it should have. The pastor, who had been arranging donated coats by size, suddenly found a reason to stand near the women and children. Mason Dawson appeared halfway down the stairs in a charcoal wool coat too clean for the weather and leather gloves that had never stacked firewood. He was handsome in a polished way, broad smile, trimmed beard, snow melting in his dark hair like something arranged for a photograph. His eyes moved over the room, touching faces, measuring loyalties. When he saw Megan, his smile warmed by one practiced degree. When he saw Owen, it did not. "Megan," Mason said, "I heard the old Hartley cabin lost power last night. Came to make sure you and the little one were safe." Lily hid her face against Megan's shoulder. Megan's voice was thin but steady. "We are fine." "Good, good." Mason descended one more step. Bishop's lips lifted barely. Mason stopped. "That dog friendly?" "Depends on the person," Owen said. Mason looked at him for the first time fully. "And you are Owen Mercer?" "Ray Mercer's nephew, the Navy man." Mason's smile returned, now sharpened. "I heard you were back. Small town. News travels faster than plows." "Not always cleaner." June coughed into her hand, which did not hide her satisfaction. Mason's eyes flicked toward her. "June, still feeding half the county on expired soup? Still feeding the half you don't invite to the lodge?" The room went still. Mason laughed as if she had told a sweet joke. "Always a pleasure." He turned back to Megan. "If you need a place tonight, the lodge has a maintenance room. Nothing fancy, but warmer than that cabin. No charge." The offer sounded generous if a person heard only words. Owen watched Megan hear the hook beneath them. No charge from Mason Dawson would come with a bill, but not the kind paid in money. Thank you, Megan said. We'll stay where June puts us. Suit yourself. Mason's gaze lowered to Lily, then lifted to Owen. Just be careful who you let near your child. People drift into town with stories about helping, and sometimes they have reasons they don't mention. Owen felt the log in his hands. It would have been satisfying to throw it. Not helpful. Bishop gave one low rumble as if he too had considered the log and accepted operational restraint. Megan stepped forward before Owen could speak. Do not talk about my child. There was enough force in her voice to move the air. Mason's smile thinned. Protective as ever. I admire that. No, Megan said. You resent it. A few people looked down at their bowls. Mason's eyes cooled. For 1 second, the polish cracked, and Owen saw the man beneath, irritated, entitled, afraid of being answered in public. Then the smile came back. You take care of yourself, Megan. Winter is hard on people who don't plan ahead. He turned and climbed the stairs, leaving a trail of expensive cologne and threat. No one spoke until the outside door closed. June muttered, May his socks always be damp. Lily lifted her head. Mama, are damp socks bad? Very, Megan said, voice shaking. A terrible fate. Owen set the log down because his fingers had begun to ache around it. He crossed only a few steps toward Megan, stopping far enough away. Are you all right? I am tired of being asked that when the answer is visible. It should have stung. It did, but less than the sight of her pale mouth. Fair. He came because of you. Maybe. Not maybe. Megan shifted Lily on her hip. Mason Dawson does not check on people in church basements. He heard you were asking about me. Owen did not deny it. Then he should get used to disappointment. This is not a mission, Owen. It is becoming an investigation. Her eyes flashed. Do you hear yourself? Yes. Do you hear me? That stopped him more effectively than shouting. Bishop turned his head toward Owen, and the dog had the nerve to look approving. Owen exhaled through his nose. I hear you. Tell me the line. Megan looked at him for a long moment, measuring whether he meant it. You do not go near Dawson property. You do not confront Mason. You do not use Lily as a reason to make decisions for me. If I choose to reopen anything, I choose it. If I say stop, you stop. Agreed. That fast? You were clear. Something moved across her face, maybe suspicion, maybe grief at how much she had wanted that answer years ago from someone. And if I ask for help, then I help the way you ask, unless someone's life is in immediate danger. June snorted softly. Write that down before male memory edits it. Owen glanced at her. Do you have paper? June raised her eyebrows. Oh, I may like you after all. Megan shook her head despite herself, and the room breathed again. Later, after June found Megan and Lily a cot in the side classroom, Owen drove back to his cabin with Bishop in the passenger seat, and Mason Dawson's voice stuck under his skin. He did not go near Dawson property. He did call Caleb Price. Caleb answered on the 6th ring with the gravelly patience of a man who had learned to sleep through pain, but not through old friends. Mercer, it is midnight. I need legal advice. Then call a lawyer. I called a retired JAG with a savior complex and bad knees. Flattery this early in the conversation means trouble. Owen told him enough. Megan the accusation, Mason the missing winter maintenance money, the lack of formal charges, the threat disguised as concern. Caleb listened without interrupting, except once to ask the amount and once to ask whether Owen had already trespassed. No. That pause was offensive. I have not trespassed. Good. Continue being less foolish than your natural gifts allow. I can pull public records, corporate filings, civil complaints, property liens, anything available legally. If your Megan wants counsel, she calls me herself. You do not hire me for her without her consent. I know. Do you? because guilt makes men creative. Owen looked at Bishop, who had put his chin on the dashboard and was fogging the windshield with the persistence of a tiny weather system. People keep telling me that. Then enjoy the miracle of consistent feedback. Caleb's voice softened. Is the child yours? Owen closed his eyes. Yes. A pause. You all right? No.
Good. It would worry me if you were. Send me what you know. Public records only for now. And Mercer? Yeah. Do not confuse your skill set with permission. This is not a raid. Owen looked at the dark window at his reflection layered over the snow. I know. After the call, he sat at the table and wrote down Megan's lines on a sheet of paper. Do not go near Dawson property. Do not confront Mason. Do not use Lily as a reason to make decisions for me. If I say stop, you stop. He pinned it beside Ray's photo. Bishop watched from the rug with the solemn air of a chaplain who approved of written doctrine. The next morning, Owen began the only way he could without breaking faith. He went to the county recorder's office. He requested public filings for Dawson Timber Lodge and associated companies. He asked about liens, creditor actions, shell entities registered to Mason Dawson, and old civil notices. The clerk, a young man with sleepy eyes and a sweatshirt that said Lake Life, perked up when Owen mentioned opening a rescue training site. Small towns distrusted strangers until the stranger might bring business, at which point distrust put on a nicer shirt. Owen did not bribe, threaten, or charm beyond ordinary manners. He paid copy fees. He took notes. Bishop waited in the truck with the window cracked, scandalized by bureaucracy. By afternoon, Owen had a stack of paper and a headache. Dawson Timber had suffered cash flow problems the same winter Megan was accused. Mason had formed a limited liability company 3 months before the missing money became public. The company had purchased a snowcat and 2 parcels near the edge of Payette National Forest, then defaulted on 1 private loan. None of it proved theft. It proved appetite. Caleb called it dusk. Your Mason likes creating little companies that die young. Can we connect them to the missing account? Not from public records. We need bank documents, internal ledgers, witness testimony, or someone foolish enough to have kept copies. Megan asked for an independent audit. Was it done? No. Convenient. Owen heard Caleb shift the faint tap of his cane against something hollow. You said she kept books. Bookkeepers often keep backups. If she had them, wouldn't she have used them? Not if they were incomplete. Not if she was threatened. Not if she lost access before she knew what mattered. Ask. Do not interrogate. Ask. Owen thanked him and hung up. He did not go to Megan's cabin. He went to June's store because June had somehow become the town's unofficial border checkpoint between bad ideas and worse ones. She was unpacking canned peaches when he entered. You look like a man who has discovered paperwork lacks dramatic music. I need to ask Megan about old backups. June stacked a can. Then ask her when she is warm and fed. She is sorting donated coats at the church tonight. Lily will be there. Your dog may attend if he does not steal communion crackers. He will try. All saints are tested. At the church, Megan listened while Owen explained what Caleb had found. She did not speak for a long time. Lily sat on the floor nearby, drawing stars on scrap paper, while Bishop lay beside her pretending not to enjoy the paper crown she had placed between his ears. I had copies, Megan said finally. Owen kept still. Not everything. Some payroll summaries, vendor sheets, a few handwritten correction notes because Mason kept changing fuel invoices after I balanced them. I put them in a tin box. When the accusation happened, I panicked. I thought if I brought partial records, they'd twist them. Then the cabin flooded that spring. I thought the box was ruined. Do you still have it? Maybe. Her voice had gone distant. It might be under the north side crawl space. I hid things there when Lily started walking because she believed every paper was meant for coloring. Bishop lifted his head. North side. Mold. The place where he had sat in the snow.
Owen looked at Megan, and she looked back as the same realization passed between them. "Not tonight," she said quickly. "It is dark. I was not going to. You were. I considered it. That is not better." Bishop sneezed. Lily looked up. "Bishop says Mama won." June from the doorway said, "Bishop is perceptive." For the first time since Mason's visit, Megan smiled fully, and Owen felt the force of it like warmth from an opened stove. The smile faded, but not completely. "Tomorrow," she said. "I will look tomorrow. You can stand where I can see you. Bishop can sniff if he behaves. You do not crawl under my house unless I ask." Understood. Outside, the snow began again, quiet and steady, laying a fresh white sheet over every roof in town. Across the square, the Dawson Timber Lodge sign glowed amber through the storm. In the second-floor window, a figure stood, watching the church.
Owen could not see the face, but Bishop had gone still, and in Owen's experience, the dog rarely wasted stillness. Megan followed his gaze and pulled Lily closer. The figure stepped back from the window, disappearing into the gold-lit room. The next morning suddenly felt farther away. The next morning opened brittle and bright. The kind of winter morning that tricked people into believing the world had forgiven the night. Sun flashed on every drift. Icicles hung from the eaves of Megan's cabin like glass knives. The sky over McCall was a hard, clean blue, and the mountains looked close enough to touch, which Owen knew was one of winter's better lies. Beautiful things could still be dangerous. He parked at the edge of Megan's yard, exactly where she pointed, engine off, hands visible, Bishop waiting at heel, because she had not yet given permission for him to work. Megan noticed. She said nothing, but some tight line in her shoulders loosened. Lily stood on the porch in her pink hat and blue star mittens, bouncing because Bishop existed and the world therefore held possibilities. "He is not a toy," Megan reminded her. "I know," Lily said. "He is a wolf with a job." Bishop's chest seemed to expand. Owen coughed to hide a laugh. Megan gave him a look. "Do not encourage either one of them." "I would never." "You already are." It was not trust, but it was a tone he remembered dry and quick, a small old bridge still standing over deep water. Megan led them to the north side of the cabin where snow had drifted against the wall in a sloping bank. Up close, the smell was worse, damp wood, old leaves, mold, sleeping under ice. Bishop's nose went down. His body shifted into work mode so cleanly, Lily whispered, "He got taller." Owen crouched beside the dog. "Search slow." Bishop moved along the foundation, pausing twice, rejecting both spots, then stopping near a warped plank half hidden under frozen grass. He sat. Megan wrapped her arms around herself. "There." Owen looked at her before moving. "May I clear snow?" She nodded. He used a small folding shovel from the truck, careful not to damage anything. Megan watched every motion. Lily watched Bishop. Bishop watched the plank as if it owed him money. Under the snow, the earth had crusted hard, but the plank lifted after Owen worked a pry bar under one end. A rush of sour, damp air came out. Megan covered her nose. Owen shined a flashlight into the narrow crawl space. Old jars, a child's red plastic cup, mouse-chewed insulation. Then metal. A round tin box wedged between two stones, rusted at the lid, but intact enough to have fought the years. Owen did not reach for it. He handed Megan the flashlight. "It is yours." She stared at him, and he knew the pause mattered. Once he might have grabbed it, eager to prove usefulness. Now he waited in the cold while she decided whether to kneel. Megan handed Lily the flashlight. "Hold this steady, baby." Lily held it with grave importance, the beam wobbling over Bishop's paws, Owen's glove, the dark mouth of the crawl space. Megan got down on one knee and reached inside. Her fingers shook, not from cold alone. When the tin came free, it left a clean outline in the dirt, as if the house had been holding its breath around it. Megan sat back on her heels with the box in her lap. For a long moment she did not open it. Snow melt dripped from the eaves. Somewhere in the trees a raven croaked. Bishop leaned forward and sniffed the lid, then sneezed dramatically. Lily whispered, "He says old." Megan laughed under her breath, a sound caught between tears and disbelief. "He is right." The lid resisted. Owen offered his pocket knife without stepping closer. Megan took it, pried gently, and the tin opened with a squeal. Inside were folded papers sealed in 2 plastic freezer bags. The outer bag had yellowed, but held. Payroll summaries, vendor invoices, handwritten notes in Megan's precise script. A copy of a bank reconciliation sheet with 3 fuel transfers circled in blue ink. Megan touched the top page like it might vanish. "I thought they were ruined." Owen felt a thrill of disciplined hope and immediately held it down. Evidence was not justice yet. It was only a door. "Caleb should see these. I know." Her eyes stayed on the papers. "Mason changed numbers after I balanced them. I asked him why. He said Frank wanted winter costs shifted to another account before tax season. It felt wrong, but I was tired, and he was my supervisor's son, and back then I still believed wrong things would look wrong to everyone." Lily leaned against her mother's shoulder. "Mama is the box treasure." Megan looked at Owen, then at the papers. "Maybe." Bishop gave one soft woof. Lily nodded. "Bishop says yes." For the next week, life did not transform. That was the first thing Owen had to learn. Evidence did not make the cabin warm. Fatherhood did not arrive with music. Love did not get restored because a dog sat in snow beside a rusted tin. Instead, things moved in small, stubborn increments. Caleb drove up from Boise in a salt-stained Subaru with a cane, 2 legal pads, and the expression of a man personally offended by sloppy injustice. He met Megan at June's store in the back room between stacks of flour and Christmas decorations nobody had put away. He explained what the papers might show, what they did not show, and how reopening the matter would require patience, consent, and more proof. Megan listened with the careful face of someone who had learned every signature could become a trap. Caleb did not rush her. Owen liked him better for that. Bishop liked him because Caleb carried beef sticks in his coat pocket and pretended surprise each time one disappeared. Lily liked him because his cane had a brass duck head, and because he let her name it Mr. Quack, which Caleb accepted with military seriousness. Megan did not agree to anything that day. She did accept a copy of Caleb's card. "That is more than nothing," June told Owen later while forcing him to carry flour sacks. "Do not ruin it by celebrating where she can see you." So Owen did ordinary things. He fixed the church's loose handrail after asking the pastor, June, and 3 unnecessary witnesses. He cleared snow from the sidewalk outside Miller's General without announcing who had done it, though Bishop ruined the mystery by sitting proudly beside the shovel when Megan arrived. He brought the rescue site proposal to Caleb, not Megan, and had the documents drafted properly before offering her the bookkeeping position again. Paid hourly, remote when weather was bad. No obligation to discuss Dawson. Megan read every line twice, then said she would think about it. Owen said, "Take your time." She looked at him as if waiting for the pressure. When none came, she folded the papers and put them in her bag. Lily began expecting Bishop at the church basement on cold evenings. She did not yet know Owen as father. Megan had not decided when or how, but Lily knew him as Mr. Owen, the man whose dog bowed his head during grace and then checked under tables for dropped peas. It was a small title. Owen wore it carefully. The first time Lily asked him to tie her boot, he glanced at Megan for permission. Megan nodded once, almost imperceptibly. Owen knelt, tied the boot, and had to blink hard because the lace was tiny in his hands, absurdly tiny, and he had once believed himself made for large, dangerous things. The second time Lily asked Bishop if Mr. Owen could come see her snow fort behind the church, Bishop looked at Owen. Owen looked at Megan. Megan sighed. 10 minutes,
It became 30 because the fort required inspection, defense planning, and a roof of pine branches Bishop immediately sat on. Lily laughed so hard she fell backward into powder. Megan laughed too, one hand over her mouth, and Owen carried that sound home like contraband warmth. But the Dawsons did not sleep. Mason appeared twice in town, always where Megan could see him, always smiling. A black SUV idled outside the church one evening until June marched out with a broom and took down the license plate in full view of the driver. Rumors spread. Owen heard them in the hardware store, in the line at the pharmacy behind him, at the gas pump. Megan was stirring up old trouble. Megan had found a rich veteran to fight her battles. Owen had come back unstable from war and should not be trusted with a dog that size, much less a child. The rumors irritated him less for himself than for their precision. Mason knew where to press. Pride, motherhood, PTSD, the old accusation. He was not just defending a lie, he was trying to make the truth look dangerous before it arrived. Caleb advised documenting everything and saying little. Paper beats outrage, he said. Usually slower, but with fewer assault charges. Owen followed the advice. Mostly. One afternoon, Mason passed him outside the feed store and said, "Careful, Mercer. Some women collect wounded men like blankets." Owen stopped. Bishop stopped. The street seemed to listen. Owen turned just enough to meet Mason's eyes. "I have heard men say cruel things when they are scared." Mason's smile froze. "I'm not scared of you." "I did not say you were scared of me." Bishop gave a soft, satisfied huff. Mason walked away, but not before Owen saw the twitch in his jaw. That evening, the weather radio warned of a second storm larger than the first, dropping from Canada with winds strong enough to close mountain roads by midnight. Owen called Megan. She did not answer. He told himself not to panic. Then June called. "Megan is at the cabin. Lily has a cough. Power may go. Does she have enough wood?" She said yes, which means no in Proud Woman. Owen closed his eyes. "June, I know. I told her the church room is open. She said Lily needed her own bed tonight. I do not like it." Bishop had already risen from the rug. Outside wind pushed snow across the window in long, ghostly bands. Owen loaded the truck with firewood, blankets, a battery lantern, and a portable heater still in its box. He did not drive to the cabin. He drove to the end of the public lane and parked where he could see the faint light through the trees without entering her yard. He called again. No answer. He texted Storm, worsening. "I am nearby with supplies if you ask." No response. He waited 40 minutes every minute, chewing at him. Bishop paced in the cab, whining. "We wait," Owen said, though sweat had gathered under his collar despite the cold. The wind rose. Snow erased the windshield faster than the wipers could clear it. Then through the white, the cabin light flickered twice. Owen remembered the last storm, the dark window, the mold, Lily's cough. His phone buzzed. For one wild second he thought it was Megan. It was June. All she said was, "Roads are closing." Then the call dropped. Bishop slammed both paws on the dashboard and barked 3 times. From the direction of the cabin came a sound even the storm could not hide, a long, cracking groan of timber under too much weight. Owen put the truck in gear. The storm took the lane in pieces. First it erased the ruts, then it swallowed the fence posts, then it lifted the snow already on the ground and threw it sideways so the headlights filled with white motion and nothing else. Owen drove by memory and by the dark shapes of trees, one hand on the wheel, the other ready near the gear shift, every old part of him awake. Bishop stood braced in the passenger footwell because sitting had become impossible. His ears were forward, his body angled toward the cabin, a living compass made of muscle and urgency. "I know," Owen said, though the words vanished under the hammering wind.
The truck made it 3/4 of the way before the rear tires slid into a drift and sank. Owen rocked it once, twice. The engine growled. The tires spun. No good. He killed the engine, grabbed the emergency pack, clipped a reflective lead to Bishop's harness, and opened the door into weather that hit like surf. Snow punched his face. The cold went through the seams of his gloves. He lowered his head and moved. Bishop pulled ahead, but checked himself every few steps, trained never to outrun the handler unless released. Owen wanted to release him. He also knew whiteout swallowed dogs as easily as men. They reached the yard by following the faint, dark line of the woodpile and the sound of something banging loose against the cabin wall. The house looked worse than it had in daylight, alive with strain. Wind drove snow under the warped porch roof. The plastic over Lily's window snapped and ballooned. A portion of the roof line over the back room sagged under a monstrous drift, and from inside came a child's cough, followed by Megan's voice, muffled but sharp with fear. "Lily, stay by me!" Owen reached the front door and pounded. "Megan!" No answer. He tried the handle, frozen or jammed from inside. "Megan, it's Owen!" A crash came from the back of the cabin. Bishop lunged toward the sidewall, barking. Owen moved with him. The back door was half buried and pinned by a fallen branch. Through the broken edge of a window, he saw dim lantern light smoke and Megan dragging a small mattress away from a dark stream of water pouring through the ceiling. Lily stood near the kitchen table with a blanket around her shoulders, crying silently, too frightened even for sound. A beam overhead groaned. Owen's body made the decision before guilt, permission, or pride could convene a meeting. "Megan, get away from the door!" he shouted. He took the hatchet from his pack and chopped through the ice-sealed frame beside the back door. Once, twice. Wood split. Bishop barked every time the beam groaned, a horrible countdown. Owen kicked the weakened frame. Pain shot up his bad shoulder, hot and clean. He kicked again. The door burst inward 6 inches, blocked by the fallen branch and something inside. Megan's face appeared through the gap, pale in lantern light. "Owen, move Lily to the far wall, now!" She did not argue. That told him everything. Owen shoved the door with his shoulder, gritting his teeth as the old injury screamed. Bishop squeezed through the gap first, low and fast, then stopped inside and looked back, waiting. Owen widened the opening enough to force his body through. The cabin smelled of wet insulation, mold, wood smoke, and fear. Water dripped from 3 places. Snow sifted through a crack in the ceiling. The stove smoked because wind had shoved air down the pipe. "The front door is stuck," Megan said, breathless. "The roof over Lily's room started coming down. I couldn't get signal." "We are leaving. The papers I need, Megan." His voice cut harder than he intended. He softened it immediately. "You and Lily first. Everything else after." Lily coughed and reached for Bishop. The dog pressed his body against her legs, not knocking her down, just grounding her. Megan grabbed a small backpack, shoved medicine, Lily's inhaler, 2 folded documents, and the Blue Star mittens into it. Owen took Lily's coat from a peg and helped without taking over, holding one sleeve, while Megan guided the child's arm. The coordination was clumsy and intimate. No time to name it. The roof groaned again. A crack spread across the ceiling above the little room where Lily had been sleeping. "Out!" Owen said. He lifted the branch enough for Megan to duck through the back doorway with Lily in her arms. Bishop went next. Owen turned for the lantern, then saw the tin box on the shelf, the one with Megan's papers. It was not his choice. He heard her outside coughing, heard Lily whimper, heard the beam crack. He left the tin. He forced himself through the gap and pulled the door as closed as it would go. They had made it 10 steps when the roof over the back room collapsed inward with a sound like a tree breaking under ice. Megan cried out. Lily screamed. Snow and dust burst from the broken window.
Owen put himself between them and the cabin uselessly, instinctively. Bishop barked, then spun in a circle counting his people. 1, 2, 3. His people were out. Owen felt his knees loosen and locked them. "Truck is stuck," he said. "We walk to it, get supplies, then head to the church if I can get it free. If not, we shelter in the truck and call June on the emergency radio." "Lily can't walk in this. I'll carry her." Megan looked as if she might object. Then Lily coughed again, a harsh rattle. Megan handed her daughter over. The weight of the child in Owen's arms changed the storm. He had carried wounded men, gear, weapons, a friend whose blood had soaked through both of their uniforms. Lily weighed almost nothing, and still she was the heaviest thing he had ever held. She tucked her cold face against his neck. "Mr. Owen," she whispered, "is our house falling down?" He looked at Megan, who was staring at the cabin with a face emptied by shock. "Part of it got tired," Owen said. "We are going somewhere warmer. Can Bishop come?"
Bishop pushed ahead through the snow like a small, determined plow.
"Bishop insists."
Lily's fingers curled weakly in his coat. Megan walked beside him, one hand on Lily's back, the other clutching the backpack. Twice she slipped. Twice Owen wanted to catch her. Twice she recovered before he moved. And twice he respected the recovery. At the truck, the rear wheels were buried to the axle. Owen put Lily inside with Bishop while Megan climbed in after her. The cab light showed Lily's lips pale. Owen started the engine, turned the heater high, then grabbed the shovel. Megan opened the door. "What are you doing?" "Getting us out. Your shoulder." He paused. She had noticed. "It will complain. Owen, I have heard worse complaints." Bishop barked once from inside, apparently disagreeing with male stupidity as a general principle. Owen shoveled until sweat chilled on his back and his shoulder burned. Megan joined him despite his protest,
using the small folding shovel from his pack. "Get back in the truck," he said. "I am not decorative." "I did not say, then dig." They dug. The storm shoved snow into every space they cleared. Owen laid traction boards under the tires. Megan pushed branches beneath one wheel. Bishop watched through the windshield, whining because his skill set did not include operating a shovel, and this offended him deeply. On the third attempt, the truck lurched free. Megan nearly fell. Owen caught her elbow, released it as soon as she was steady, and saw her register both the help and the release. He drove with chains biting into ice, following the lane back to the county road by instinct and the faint glow of reflectors. June met them at the church door in boots, coat, and a fury so large it deserved its own weather warning. "Inside," she ordered. "All of you. Dog too. Pastor can argue with me when he learns to smell mold through walls."
Lily was wrapped in blankets near the basement radiator within minutes. A nurse who had come for the warming room listened to her lungs and said she needed a clinic in the morning, but was stable for the night. Stable became Owen's favorite word. Megan sat on a folding chair with snow melting from her hair, hands shaking in her lap. Owen stood nearby because he did not know if sitting beside her would be comfort or trespass. June solved it by shoving a mug of tea into his hands and pointing to the chair across from Megan. "Sit before you fall and make me mop." He sat. Bishop lay between Lily's cot and Megan's boots, wet, exhausted, magnificent. Lily's hand dangled over the edge of the cot, fingers resting in Bishop's fur. "Thank you," Megan said. The words were so quiet, Owen almost missed them. "You do not owe me thanks for getting my daughter out of a collapsing house." Megan looked up. "Our daughter." Owen stopped breathing. She looked terrified after saying it, as if the words had walked into the room without asking her. He did not reach for them too quickly. "Yes," he said. "Our daughter." Tears filled Megan's eyes, and this time one slipped down before she could stop it. "I hate that the roof had to fall before I could say that." "I hate that I was not there before the roof got that bad." The truth sat between them, neither accusation nor forgiveness. June pretended to organize blankets on a shelf 10 feet away and failed to pretend she was not listening. Megan wiped her cheek. I need this documented. If you help with Lily's housing, medical care, anything, it is because you are her father. Not because you feel sorry for me. Not because you are trying to buy your way back. Agreed. Caleb writes it. Agreed. And you do not make decisions without me. Agreed. She let out a trembling breath. You agree too easily. It is suspicious. Owen looked toward Bishop, who had somehow acquired one of Lily's mittens and was holding it between his paws like a sacred relic. I am being supervised. Megan followed his gaze. For the first time that night, a laugh escaped her, wet and small, but real. He stole her mitten. He is preserving evidence. Of what? Of being terrible. Lily's stirred eyes half opening. Bishop can keep it, she mumbled. He saved us. Bishop rested his chin on the blue mitten with the white star. Owen looked at Megan over the sleeping child and the dog between them. Snow battered the basement windows, but inside there was soup heat, witnesses, and a fragile new arrangement neither of them had planned. At dawn, when the storm finally loosened, Owen drove Megan back to the cabin to meet the volunteer crew June had summoned by telephone, and guilt. The damage looked worse in the pale light. The back room had caved in. Water had frozen along the floorboards. Megan stood in the yard, arms folded, staring at what remained of the life she had held together by force. Bishop sniffed along the porch, then moved to the north side where the crawlspace plank still sat loose from the previous day. He began to dig again. Bishop, Owen said. The dog ignored him. Megan walked over, frowning. Beneath the snow and broken siding, Bishop uncovered not the tin box they had already found, but a second metal container, flatter, wedged deeper under a joist, sealed with duct tape blackened by age. Megan went still. That is not mine. Owen crouched without touching it. On the top, under a smear of dirt, was a faded Dawson timber maintenance label. Megan whispered, Why would that be under my house? Bishop sat in the snow, tail still mission face on. Owen looked at the collapsed cabin, the hidden box, and the woman beside him whose life had been ruined by records no one had wanted to read. I think, he said carefully, someone hid more than blame here. The second box changed the weather inside everyone, even though the storm had passed. It lay on June Miller's backroom table under the yellow light between sacks of flour and a plastic nativity scene nobody had returned to storage. Caleb Price stood over it with reading glasses low on his nose, cane hooked on the chair beside him, expression grim enough to make June stop offering opinions for almost 40 seconds. Megan sat with Lily asleep against her side, the child's cough softer now after a clinic visit and a new inhaler June had bullied the pharmacist into filling before paperwork caught up. Owen stood near the door with Bishop at his feet. He had not touched the box after finding it. Megan had not touched it either. A deputy June trusted, a broad woman named Anita Brooks, who had gone to school with Megan, had come to the cabin, photographed the location, bagged the container, and signed a property receipt, while Mason Dawson's influence was still presumably eating breakfast. Caleb insisted on procedure. The law is slow, he had said, but if we do not feed it properly, it spits out the truth and keeps the lies. Now the box waited. Anita cut the tape with a pocket knife, gloved hands, careful. Inside were ledger sheets, folded tight, a damaged portable hard drive, and a stack of fuel receipts marked with Dawson timber codes. Megan made a sound so small, Owen felt it more than heard it. Caleb lifted one page with tweezers. These are internal vendor summaries. I never saw those, Megan said. Not these versions. Whose handwriting? Caleb asked. Megan leaned forward, face pale. Mason's, on the adjustments, mine on the original totals. He wrote over copies. Anita photographed each page. June crossed herself once, then pretended she had only scratched her shoulder. Owen watched Megan's hands in her lap.
They were clenched so tightly her knuckles looked bloodless. He wanted to cover them with his. He did not. Bishop did it for him,
rising and placing his heavy head gently on Megan's knee. She looked down, startled. The dog held still. Megan's fingers opened by degrees and settled in the thick fur behind his ear. "He does that when people are about to break," Owen said quietly. Megan did not look up. "Does he charge by the hour?" "Mostly in pancakes." June pointed at Bishop. "And he will not get them from me while legal evidence is on my table." Bishop did not remove his head from Megan's knee, but his eyes moved toward June with injured hope. Caleb examined the hard drive. "This needs a forensic specialist. If it has accounting backups or camera files, we may have more than enough to reopen the matter." "May?" Megan repeated. She had learned to mistrust May. "May," Caleb agreed. "I will not sell you certainty. I can tell you this is better evidence than most people get after 4 years. Anita nodded. "If these records connect to the missing funds, and if the drive confirms access or transfers, we can take it to the prosecutor. But Dawson will fight." Megan looked at the box. "He already is." No one contradicted her. The following days became a strange braid of recovery and preparation. Owen arranged through Caleb a formal temporary housing agreement for Lily. Not Megan. Lily. The wording mattered because Megan needed it to matter. A small furnished rental cabin near the church became available when an elderly couple drove south for the rest of winter, and Owen paid the lease under a documented parental support arrangement that Megan read 3 times before signing. She moved in with 2 suitcases, Lily's drawings, the rescued tin box, and a pride so bruised it made every kindness complicated. Owen carried boxes only when asked. Bishop carried one stuffed rabbit by the ear, which Lily declared helpful and Megan declared unsanitary. The rabbit survived. The rental cabin had working heat, tight windows, and a roof that did not whisper threats in the night. The first evening there, Lily stood under a warm shower and sang nonsense songs so loudly June cried in the kitchen while pretending to chop onions. Megan cried later alone on the porch until Owen stepped outside to leave and found her wiping her face with both sleeves. He stopped at the threshold. "I can go." "No," she said. The word surprised them both. Snow fell lightly beyond the porch light. "I do not know how to accept this." "Then do not accept all of it. Accept tonight, heat, a safe bed for Lily. Tomorrow can argue tomorrow." Megan gave a broken laugh. "You keep using my own survival rules against me. They are good rules. They were lonely rules." The sentence opened a quiet space. Owen did not rush into it. "I am sorry you had to make them alone." She looked at him then, tired and beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with youth. "So am I." The legal machinery, once awakened, moved with arthritic dignity. Caleb filed a formal request for review with the county prosecutor and submitted the newly discovered documents through Deputy Brooks. He also retained a forensic accountant in Boise, a woman named Priya Shah, who had the warm bedside manner of a locked safe and the miraculous ability to make frauds sound less like numbers and more like fingerprints. Priya found the first connection within 48 hours. The adjusted fuel receipts matched 3 transfers from Dawson Timber's winter maintenance account to an LLC registered through a chain that led to Mason. The amounts had been split to avoid easy notice. The dates matched the period when Megan was accused. The handwriting on the paper adjustments appeared to match Mason's known notes from public permit applications. The hard drive, once stabilized, contained deleted camera files from the lodge office hallway. One grainy clip showed Mason entering the accounting room after midnight with a keycard 2 days before the accusation. It did not show theft by itself. It showed access he had denied. Megan watched the clip on Caleb's laptop in June's back room and went very still. "He told everyone I was the only one who could get in after hours." Caleb paused the video. "He lied." Everyone believed him. Not everyone, June said from the doorway. Megan looked at her. June's eyes glistened. Some of us were cowards with good instincts. That is not as noble as I wish it were. Megan's mouth trembled. June, no, honey. Let an old woman confess in peace. I knew you did not steal. I said it in my kitchen in whispers to safe people. I did not say it loudly enough when loud might have cost me something. I am sorry. Megan rose and hugged her. June immediately complained that she was getting flour on her, though she hugged back hard. Owen looked away, giving them the dignity of not being watched. Bishop did not look away because Bishop considered group healing an event requiring supervision. Mason Dawson responded exactly as a trapped man with money often does. He smiled wider in public. Dawson Timber released a statement about malicious rumors, stolen documents, and outsiders trying to damage a family business that had supported McCall for generations. Frank Dawson appeared at the town council meeting in a Navy suit and spoke about loyalty, community, and the tragedy of false accusations, using every phrase that had once been used against Megan and turning them outward like blades. People listened. Some nodded. Fear wore neighborly faces. A week later, Mason came to Owen's training site, which at that point was only Ray's old field, 2 shed survey flags, and Bishop proudly standing on a plywood platform as if commanding a base. Owen was repairing a gate when Mason's SUV rolled up. Bishop's body tightened. Owen gave a low hand signal, and the dog held position. Mason stepped out alone, expensive boots sinking half an inch into slush. You have made a mess, Mason said pleasantly. Owen continued tightening the hinge. Then stay off the floor. Cute. Mason's smile flickered. You think this is about justice? Megan has always had a talent for finding men who need to feel useful. You are not the first. Owen turned the wrench once more and set it down and faced him. Careful. Or what? Your dog bites me? You play soldier in a town that does not belong to you? Mason stepped closer. I know your record has holes. Combat stress, medical retirement. Men like you come home needing a mission because ordinary life makes too much noise. Megan is using that. She is using the kid, too. Owen felt the old red door in his mind, the one anger stood behind. He did not open it. He thought of Megan's written lines pinned beside Ray's photograph. Do not confront Mason. If I say stop, you stop. He took out his phone and pressed record in plain view. Repeat that. Mason's eyes changed. You are pathetic. That was not as specific. Mason leaned in. Tell Megan I can still make this go away. A private settlement. Enough money to fix every problem she has. She withdraws the complaint, signs a non-disclosure agreement, and stops letting you drag up old mistakes. My father is not well. A public case could kill him. You are asking me to deliver that message? I am giving her a chance. No, Owen said. You are looking for a door without a courtroom attached. Mason's jaw tightened. Bring it to her. Unless you are afraid she will take the money and not need you anymore. There it was, neat and poisonous. Owen felt it enter and refused to build it a home. I will tell her exactly what you said, word for word. The choice will be hers. Mason stared at him, disappointed not to find the fight he wanted. Then he turned and walked back to his SUV. Bishop watched until it vanished down the road, then sneezed into the snow. Agreed, Owen said. He is hard to enjoy. Megan listened to the recording that evening at the rental cabin table. Lily slept in the next room. June had gone home after leaving soup bread and an unnecessary amount of pie. Caleb sat on speakerphone, silent until the end. Megan's face did not change while Mason's voice filled the room. Enough money to fix every problem she has. She withdraws the complaint. A public case could kill him. When the recording ended, the refrigerator hummed. Snow tapped the window. Owen waited. This had to be hers. Megan looked at her hands. "How much do you think he means enough?" Owen said honestly. "Maybe more than enough. Enough to buy a roof, a car that starts, doctors, school, a life where Lily never sees me count coins in the grocery aisle." "Probably." Caleb's voice came through the phone. "If you want to hear an offer, I can arrange it through counsel. You owe no one a trial." Megan looked at Owen. "Do you want me to refuse?" The question was soft and dangerous. "I want you free." "That is not an answer. It is the only honest one. If money and privacy give you peace, I will back you. If court gives you your name back, I will back you. If you need a week to hate both choices, I will make coffee." Megan looked toward Lily's closed door. Her eyes filled, but her voice stayed clear. "I spent 4 years being a lesson people taught their daughters. Do not end up like Megan. Do not trust the wrong man. Do not get above your place. Do not touch money if powerful people can accuse you of stealing it. If I take Mason's money and silence, Lily grows up with a better roof but the same shadow over my name." She drew a breath. "No. I want the truth public. Not revenge, truth." Caleb spoke gently. "Then we move forward." Owen felt pride rise in him, fierce and tender, but he did not put it on her shoulders. Megan stood and went to the window. Outside, Bishop patrolled the porch with the blue star mitten in his mouth, having found it in Lily's coat pocket, and apparently declared it a security object. Megan watched him, and a small laugh broke through her tears. "Your dog is stealing from my child again. He prefers the term evidence retention. He is going to testify at this rate." Owen stood beside her, leaving space between them. In the reflected glass, their faces hovered over the snowy yard, older than the first time they had loved each other. More damaged, maybe. More capable. Megan did not lean into him. He did not reach. But when her hand lowered to her side, her fingers brushed his for one brief second before she pulled away. It was not a promise. It was not forgiveness. It was something quieter and more fragile. Permission for the next breath. Across town, in the upper office of Dawson Timber Lodge, Rachel Dawson sat alone with a locked drawer open in front of her and a burned ledger page in her hand, listening to her brother shout through the wall. For years she had told herself silence was survival. That night, while snow covered the lodge roof and the town below it, silence began to feel like one more lie. Rachel Dawson came to Miller's General through the rear door just after closing, which told June everything before the younger woman said a word. Nobody used June's rear door unless they were delivering potatoes, hiding from weather, or carrying a truth too heavy for the front entrance. Rachel was 37, with dark hair tucked under a wool hat and the careful posture of someone raised in rooms where one wrong tone could become a family hearing. Snow clung to her coat. Her face looked scrubbed of sleep. In her hands she held a manila envelope pressed against her chest, as if it might try to escape. June locked the front door, turned the sign to closed, and said, "If you are here to threaten me on behalf of your father, at least let me sit down first. My knees deserve dignity." Rachel's mouth trembled. "I am not here for my father." June studied her for 3 seconds, then pointed toward the back room. "Then come in before courage freezes." Megan was there with Owen and Caleb, sorting through copies of the documents Priya had analyzed. Lily sat at a side table coloring stars around Bishop's paw print on a sheet of paper, and Bishop himself lay under the table, wearing the expression of a veteran forced into civilian arts programming. When Rachel entered, Megan stood so quickly her chair scraped. The room tightened. Rachel saw it and nearly turned around. "I should not have come." "Too late," June said, positioning herself between Rachel and the exit with the elegance of a friendly barricade. "You came. Sit." Rachel did not sit. Her eyes found Megan's and filled at once. "I knew some of it." The words fell out broken. "Not everything, not at first, but enough."
I knew Mason was moving money. I saw transfers. I saw him change reports after you signed off on them. I told myself there had to be an explanation because he was my brother, and my father said family survives by not handing knives to strangers. Megan's face went white. Owen moved half a step,
then stopped himself. This was not his wound to catch. Rachel placed the envelope on the table with both hands.
I kept copies. At first because I was scared Mason would blame me someday. Later because I was ashamed I had not helped you. Then I burned some after Father found out I had asked questions. I saved these.
Caleb opened the envelope carefully. Inside were ledger pages, one blackened along the edge, a photocopy of a cashier's check made out to a private gambling debt collector in Reno, and a handwritten note from Mason instructing an employee to move winter maintenance variants to Hartley review file. Caleb's expression changed, though his voice stayed level. "Miss Dawson, do you understand what these are?" Rachel nodded.
"Enough to hurt my family."
"Enough to tell the truth," Megan said. Rachel looked at her then, and the shame in her face was almost painful to witness.
"I am sorry. I know that is too small. I watched you carry something my brother put on you."
"I watched people talk. I watched you come into the lodge once with Lily in a sling, asking for your last paycheck, and I stayed in the office because I was afraid if you saw me, you would ask me to be brave." Megan sat slowly. "Would you have been?" Rachel shook her head. Tears slipped down.
"No, not then."
Silence held the room. Bishop rose, walked to Rachel, and sat at her feet. She looked startled.
"He does that,"
Lily said without looking up from her stars. "When people are sad or lying. But maybe you are sad." Bishop leaned against Rachel's knee. A laugh and sob came out of her together. "I am very sad." "Then he is helping." Lily returned to coloring, satisfied that the matter had been professionally handled. June wiped her eyes with a dish towel and said it was dust, which fooled no one. Caleb asked Rachel a series of careful questions. Would she give a sworn statement? Would she testify if subpoenaed? Had anyone threatened her? Did Frank Dawson know she had these documents? Rachel answered yes. Yes, not directly, and probably. Each answer seemed to cost her, but she paid. When Caleb asked why she had come now, Rachel looked toward Megan. "Because I saw Lily outside the clinic yesterday. She was wearing mittens with stars. She asked June if stars can be seen in daytime if they are brave enough. I do not know why that did it. Maybe because I have spent my whole life waiting for dark before I admit what shines." The words were almost too poetic for the room, but Rachel looked embarrassed after saying them, which saved them. June sniffed. "That was either beautiful or you need soup. Both can be true," Caleb said. Owen looked at Megan. Her face had changed, not healed, but steadied by the strange power of someone finally saying aloud what she had known in her bones. After Rachel left under Caleb's arrangement to meet Deputy Brooks the next morning, the room remained quiet. Megan picked up the burned ledger page with gloved fingers. "He wrote my name." Owen saw it then. Hartley review file, a trap named in ink. Yes, all these years I wondered if I had missed something, if maybe I made an error that let someone blame me, if maybe I was not as careful as I thought. Her voice hardened. "He wrote my name." Owen wanted to say Mason would pay. He wanted to say the case was over, that Rachel's testimony would break the Dawsons open, that no one would ever look at Megan with suspicion again. He had learned enough to mistrust promises spoken in heat. "Now the court can see it." Megan looked at him, and he saw gratitude there, guarded but real. "You did not say you would destroy him." "I thought it. I know. I am trying to become less predictable." Bishop barked once from under the table, possibly in disagreement. Lily giggled. The next week stretched nerves thin. Rachel gave a sworn statement and entered protective cooperation through Caleb and Deputy Brooks. Priya matched the ledger pages to the electronic records. The prosecutor, who had once described Dawson matters as complicated, suddenly found them less complicated under the combined weight of documents, video witness testimony, and the possibility of public embarrassment. A formal hearing was set for early March to determine whether charges would proceed against Mason and whether Megan's record of accusation would be publicly corrected. The town changed temperature. Some people who had avoided Megan now approached her in awkward bursts near the produce bins or church steps, saying things like, "I always wondered," or "I never believed all of it," or "Isn't it terrible how rumors get away from folks?" Megan accepted none of it easily. She answered with manners, not absolution. June approved. "Forgiveness is holy," she said while pricing canned beans, "but timing is a personal matter." Mason did not approach directly again. Frank Dawson did. He appeared at Caleb's temporary office above the hardware store, a tall old man with silver hair, a cane topped with elk antler, and eyes that had learned to make rooms smaller. Owen happened to be there because Caleb had asked him to bring printed copies, and Bishop had come because he considered Caleb's beefstick pocket an ongoing legal resource. Frank looked at the dog first, then at Owen. "Mercer, your uncle had more sense than you. He said that often." Frank's mouth tightened. "You are helping a bitter woman ruin a family that built this town." Caleb leaned back. "Mr. Dawson, if you are here to intimidate witnesses, I recommend doing it in front of fewer witnesses. I am here to warn you that Rachel is unwell, emotional, easily influenced. Whatever she thinks she remembers, it has been twisted." Owen felt Bishop's body press against his leg. The dog did not growl. He did not have to. Caleb smiled pleasantly. "Then your son's attorney can make that argument in court, where statements have consequences." Frank's eyes moved to Owen. "You think this woman loves you? She loves what you can do for her." Owen looked at the old man and saw not strength, but terror wearing money. "Maybe you have mistaken love for leverage so long you cannot tell the difference." Frank's face flushed. "You do not belong here." Owen thought of Lily's bootlace, Megan's roof, Bishop asleep by a church radiator, Ray's note on his shelf. "I am learning to—" That night, after Rachel's statement became known inside the Dawson family, a black SUV drove slowly past the rental cabin twice. Open was not there. Megan noticed anyway. She called Deputy Brooks, then June, then Owen, in that order. The order mattered, and Owen felt proud of her for it, even while fear moved cold through him. He arrived after Anita had already parked outside with a patrol vehicle. Megan stood on the porch in a coat, arms crossed, refusing to look frightened for anyone's convenience. "I called the deputy first," she said. "Good. Do not sound so pleased with yourself. I am pleased with you." She looked away, but not before he saw it touch her. Bishop searched the yard, nose low. He moved along the road, stopped near a tire track and gave 2 short barks, then pulled toward the woods behind the rental. Owen's hand tightened on the leash. "What is it?" Megan asked. Bishop sniffed a branch where black wool fibers clung to bark, not enough to prove anything, enough to disturb the night. Anita bagged the fibers and told everyone to stay inside. Owen obeyed until midnight, then Bishop woke from beside the door, ears high, and gave the softest whine. Owen sat up on the couch where he had been pretending to rest while June slept in a chair and Megan slept in the bedroom with Lily. Bishop faced the back window. Outside, snow fell thick again, filling the porch light. A shadow moved near the edge of the trees. Owen reached for his phone. Before he could stand, Bishop lunged, not toward the front, but toward the mudroom window left cracked for the overheated cabin. The dog slammed his shoulder into the loose screen and burst into the night. "Bishop!" Owen hissed, already moving. Megan appeared in the hall, hair loose, eyes wide. "What happened?" "Stay inside. Call Anita." "Owen, I will keep the house in sight." It was a promise built for immediate danger, narrow enough to keep. He grabbed his coat and followed Bishop's tracks into the snow. The dog was fast, but the falling powder held his path.
Owen moved with a flashlight low, old training waking in his feet. He found Bishop's tracks crossing the back lane, then turning toward the maintenance road that led eventually to the old Dawson storage barns. Owen stopped at the boundary of private property, breathing hard. "Do not go near Dawson property," Megan's line. Bishop's tracks continued beyond it. Then came a yelp from the dark.
Sharp and cut short. Owen's blood went cold. He called Anita and gave his location and waited exactly as long as he could bear, which was 49 seconds. Then he crossed the line. The old Dawson storage road ran through trees so thick the snow fell in broken pieces, catching on branches before dropping in sudden cold bursts down Owen's collar. He kept his flashlight low and angled, following Bishop's tracks while every disciplined part of him cataloged the mistake he was making. Private property. Limited visibility. No backup in immediate reach. Emotional compromise due to the dog. Caleb would have had language for it, probably involving criminal trespass and the enduring stupidity of brave men. Owen had no language. Bishop had yelped. That was the whole sentence. The tracks cut around a locked gate and through a gap where the bottom wire had been lifted. Human boot prints overlapped the dog's prints, one set large, one smaller, both partly filling with new snow. Owen stopped, listened, and heard nothing but wind moving in the pines. No engine, no voices. Then a soft metallic rattle came from the direction of the storage barns. Bishop. Owen moved. The first barn was empty, except for broken pallets and a snowmobile under a tarp. The second had a padlock hanging open the hasp, freshly scratched. Owen stepped to the side of the door, not in front of it, old habits clean in his body. "Bishop," he whispered. A muffled whine answered from inside, furious rather than weak. Relief hit so hard Owen had to put one hand against the wall. "Yeah, buddy, I hear you." He eased the door open. The beam of his flashlight caught stacked lodge furniture, old skis, rolls of carpet, and Bishop trapped in a wire utility cage meant for propane tanks. The dog's front leg was caught in a loop of cable snare fastened to the cage frame, not tight enough to cut, but tight enough to hold. Bishop's eyes shone with outrage. "You have strong opinions about this situation," Owen whispered. Bishop gave a low growl that seemed to say the opinions were legally significant. Owen crouched, checking the cable. No blood, mild swelling near the paw. He worked the release with his multi-tool, careful whispering nonsense because Bishop responded to tone even when the words were foolish. "I know, undignified. We will not put it in your service record." The cable slipped free. Bishop surged forward and pressed his head into Owen's chest for half a second. Then he pulled away immediately, embarrassed by emotion, and limped toward the back of the barn. "Of course," Owen said. "Not done." Bishop led him to a stack of carpet rolls. Behind them, a section of floorboard had been pried up. In the cavity beneath sat a black waterproof bag. Owen did not touch it. He photographed it in place, then stepped back. Sirens were faint now, coming up the road. "Good," he told Bishop. "This time we let the law arrive before we become evidence." Bishop sneezed, possibly disputing who had found the evidence. Deputy Anita Brooks arrived with 2 officers, Caleb on speakerphone and Megan in June's car, despite every sensible person's attempt to stop her. She came into the barn wearing boots unlaced and coat half-buttoned, eyes wild, until she saw Bishop upright. "You idiot dog," she whispered, dropping to her knees. Bishop limped to her and placed his head against her shoulder. Megan buried both hands in his fur. Owen stood very still. Seeing her hold Bishop like that did something quiet and irreversible inside him. Lily had not come, thank God, staying asleep under June's guard, but Megan looked as if she carried her daughter's fear, too. Then she looked at Owen. "You crossed onto Dawson property." "I did, after I told you not to." "Yes." The officers paused.
Caleb's voice crackled from the phone in Anita's hand. For the record, I am scowling. Owen kept his eyes on Megan. Bishop yelped. I called Anita and gave location before crossing. I waited, poorly. Megan's anger shook because it was braided with relief. You could have been arrested. Or hurt. Yes. Do not yes me like that fixes it. It does not. Bishop, perhaps sensing that his handler was in deserved trouble, leaned more heavily against Megan. Traitor. Anita cleared her throat. For what it's worth, he did call before entering. We were 5 minutes out. Also, this barn door was open and the dog was audibly distressed from the road by the time we arrived. Caleb sighed through the phone. That may help. It does not make him less exhausting. Megan closed her eyes. When she opened them, the rage had not vanished, but fear sat beside it. I need you alive, Owen. Lily. She stopped. The unfinished sentence filled the barn. Lily needs you. I might too. Owen felt it and did not reach for more. I will do better. You will do exactly better. Not poetically better, actually better. Yes. There you go again. A small laugh escaped Anita before she turned it into a cough. The officers photographed the bag, opened it under protocol,
and found a large keycard encoder, printed access logs, 2 thumb drives, and a bundle of cash wrapped in a Dawson timber deposit band dated 4 years earlier. Caleb stopped scowling long enough to say several words that made June later ask whether military lawyers were allowed in church basements. The access log showed Mason's keycard entering the accounting office repeatedly after hours during the weeks before Megan was blamed. 1 thumb drive contained backup exports from Dawson Timber's accounting software, including alteration timestamps after Megan's final login. The second contained security footage copied from the lodge's old system, including a clearer angle of Mason carrying a bank envelope out of the accounting room the night before he reported missing funds. It was the kind of evidence people in stories like to call a smoking gun. Caleb refused. Guns require chain of custody admissibility and somebody sober enough to testify how they were found. Prius, after reviewing the exports, became almost cheerful, which for her meant saying, "This is useful," twice. Mason was questioned 2 days later. His attorney issued a statement denying everything and claiming Owen had planted evidence after trespassing. The claim might have done damage if Anita had not documented the scene, if Bishop's snare had not been photographed, if the bag had not contained items linked physically to Dawson property, and if Rachel had not identified the key card encoder as one Mason had kept in his office safe before claiming it had been lost. Frank Dawson doubled down. He told the local paper that his family was the victim of a campaign led by an unstable veteran and a disgruntled former employee. The phrase unstable veteran reached Owen while he was at the veterinary clinic waiting for Bishop's leg to be wrapped. He read it on his phone, then turned the screen off. Bishop lay on the exam table, accepting the vet's attention with tragic patience and occasionally licking Owen's sleeve. You all right? Megan asked. She had come with him. That was new. Lily was with June making get-well cards for Bishop that involved many stars and one anatomically alarming drawing of a dog wearing a crown. Owen looked at Megan. I have been called worse by people with better aim. She did not smile. That does not mean it does not hurt. He looked away. The clinic smelled of antiseptic and wet fur. A golden retriever whined in the lobby. It hurts because some of it used to be true. Megan's expression softened. Owen, I came home wrong. After the last deployment, after Sam died. He had not meant to say Sam's name. It entered the room and stayed. Bishop lifted his head, sensing the shift. Owen stroked the dog's shoulder. Sam was my teammate. Bishop found the pressure plate too late. Not his fault, not Sam's, not mine, according to every report and every doctor with a folder. But reports do not wake up at 3 in the morning. Megan's hand moved toward his, then paused, asking without words. He turned his palm up, She took it. Her fingers were cold and rough and real. Is that why you left before dawn 4 years ago? He closed his eyes. Partly. Ray's funeral cracked something. Seeing you cracked the rest. I wanted you so badly that night it scared me. By morning I had convinced myself leaving was kinder than bringing my ghosts to your door. You brought them anyway, she said gently. Just late. He let out a breath that almost became a laugh. That is fair. Bishop thumped his tail and the vet told him to hold still. After that day, the shape of Owen and Megan changed again. Not dramatically. Dramatic had caused enough damage. She let him drive Lily to the clinic once with Megan in the passenger seat and Bishop sulking in the back because the vet had ordered rest. She let Owen read Lily a bedtime story at the rental cabin while sitting in the doorway listening. Lily chose a book about a lost bear who found home by following stars. Halfway through, she interrupted. Mr. Owen, do you have a little girl? Megan went perfectly still. Owen looked at her. She nodded once, face pale. Owen closed the book on his finger to keep the page. I think I do, he said carefully. Lily frowned. You think? I am learning. Sometimes grown-ups learn important things late. Is she nice? Owen's throat tightened. Very. Does she like dogs? Megan covered her mouth. Owen smiled. More than anything. Lily nodded gravely. Then she can share Bishop, but not all the time. That seems fair. After Lily slept, Megan stood in the kitchen with both hands on the sink. Soon, she said. I will tell her soon. Not because of pressure, because she is already building the truth out of crumbs. Owen leaned against the doorway. Children are good trackers. So are dogs. Bishop would like credit. Bishop, wearing a bandage and lying on a cushion like a wounded prince, sighed from the living room. The hearing approached. Caleb prepared Megan for hostile questions. Priya prepared charts. Rachel prepared to testify against her brother and father, growing paler each day but not backing out. June prepared casseroles for every possible outcome, which she called prudent theology. Owen prepared by staying useful and quiet, 2 disciplines harder than any winter survival course. The night before the hearing, Megan found him on the church steps after rehearsal with Caleb. Snow fell lightly, soft as sifted flour. I am scared, she said. He did not tell her not to be. I know. If this goes wrong, the whole town will say I tried to ruin the Dawsons and failed. If this goes wrong, we keep going. He looked at her then. If you want. She studied him under the church light, older and younger in the same breath. I do not know how to trust forever yet. Then trust tomorrow morning. Megan nodded slowly. Then she stepped closer and rested her forehead against his chest for 1 second, maybe 2. Owen did not wrap his arms around her until she leaned enough to ask for it. When he did, he held her gently, as if holding something strong enough to survive storms, but still deserving care. Across the street, the courthouse windows glowed in the dark. Tomorrow the town would gather to decide whether truth could arrive late and still matter. The morning of the hearing arrived under a sky the color of pewter. Snow fell in small, hard grains that clicked against windows and collected in the seams of coats, the kind of snow that seemed less like weather than warning. The county courthouse stood at the end of the square, red brick white columns and a flag snapping stiff in the wind. People began gathering before the doors opened. Some came because they loved justice, some came because they loved scandal and had learned to call it concern. Some came because the Dawson name had stood over McCall for so long that seeing it challenged felt like watching a mountain move. Megan arrived in June's old blue station wagon with Lily in the back seat, Owen following in his truck with Bishop, because Lily had insisted Bishop needed to wear his good collar for court. His good collar, according to Lily, was the black leather one with a small silver star charm she had tied to the ring with blue thread. Bishop accepted the decoration with solemn martyrdom. Lily would not attend the hearing itself. That had been Megan's line, and everyone respected it. June would keep her at the church basement with coloring books, soup, and a promise to report only the parts a 4-year-old could hold. Outside the courthouse, Megan paused on the bottom step. Her coat was the same green one, repaired now at the cuff by her own hand, but under it she wore a simple navy dress June had found and altered. Her hair was pinned back. Her face was pale. Owen stood beside her, but not touching. "You can still decide not to go in," he said. Megan looked at the courthouse doors. "No. I am done letting closed doors decide who I am." Bishop pressed his nose into her gloved hand. She looked down and smiled faintly. "You too, huh?" Bishop wagged once. Caleb came down the steps with his cane tapping, coat open despite the cold, papers tucked under one arm. "Everyone ready?" "No," Megan said. Caleb nodded.
Appropriate. Ready people are often underinformed.
June hugged Megan hard enough to wrinkle the dress, then held her shoulders. "Tell the truth. Let the lawyers wrestle over furniture." "That is not a legal phrase," Caleb said. "It should be." Lily reached from June's arms toward Owen. "Mr. Owen?" He crouched. "Yes, ma'am." She put a folded piece of paper in his hand. "For Mama, if she gets scared." He opened it just enough to see a star, bishop, 3 stick figures, and a roof with no holes. His throat closed. "I will keep it safe." Lily touched his cheek with one mitten. "Bishop says you can do hard things." "Does he?" "He told me with his eyebrows." Owen looked at Bishop. The dog gave him nothing. Professional secrecy. Megan watched the exchange, and for a second, fear gave way to tenderness so naked it nearly undid him. Then they went inside. The hearing room filled quickly. Frank Dawson sat in the front row in a dark suit, looking smaller than Owen expected, but no less dangerous. Mason sat beside his attorney, handsome face, tight jaw, clean-shaven, hands folded as if he had arrived for a business award rather than a proceeding that might send him to trial. Rachel sat near Caleb, separate from her family, wrapped in a gray coat with both hands around a paper cup of water she did not drink. When Megan entered, whispers moved through the room. She heard them. Owen saw her hear them. She kept walking. Caleb placed Lily's drawing on the table where only Megan could see it. She touched one corner, then sat. The judge was an older woman with silver hair and a voice that made foolishness seem expensive. The prosecutor summarized the grounds for reopening the matter. Newly discovered documents, witness testimony, forensic accounting, security footage, and physical evidence recovered from Dawson's storage property. Mason's attorney argued contamination, bias, trespass, emotional manipulation by Owen, and Rachel's unreliability. Caleb did not represent the state, but he represented Megan's interests and had been granted limited participation regarding the correction of public accusation and damages. He listened with the calm expression of a man building a small, private gallows out of grammar. Priya testified first. She spoke clearly without drama, explaining the transfers, altered timestamps, changed ledgers, and the path of funds into Mason's LLC and gambling debt payments. The numbers once laid out looked less like confusion and more like footsteps across fresh snow. Mason's attorney tried to make the accounting sound too complex for certainty. Priya adjusted her glasses and said, "Complexity is not the same as ambiguity." June in the second row whispered, "Put that on a pillow," and the judge looked over her glasses until June became fascinated by her purse. Deputy Anita testified about the recovery of the hidden boxes, the chain of custody, the cable snare used on Bishop, and the waterproof bag in the Dawson barn. Mason's attorney suggested Owen had planted the evidence. Anita looked at him the way winter looks at bad tires. "I photographed Mr. Mercer outside the barn before he entered again with my supervision. The bag was beneath floorboards covered in dust and old rodent droppings. Unless Mr. Mercer also trained rodents to participate in fraud, I find that unlikely. A sound moved through the courtroom. The judge lifted one hand and silence returned. Owen did not smile. Bishop was outside with a deputy because dogs were not allowed in the hearing room, a policy Lily had called unfair and June had called spiritually questionable. Owen wished Bishop were there. Not for protection, for steadiness. Then Rachel took the stand. The room changed. Frank Dawson leaned forward and Rachel looked once at him before looking at Megan. Her hands trembled when she swore the oath. Her voice trembled when she began. Then it found itself. She described Mason's gambling debts, the late-night office entries, the altered reports, the conversation where Mason said Megan was the cleanest place to put the dirt because she had access but no power. Megan closed her eyes at that phrase. Owen felt rage move through him and set both feet flat on the floor until it passed into something he could carry without spilling. Rachel described Frank's response when she asked questions. Not curiosity, not horror. Management. Keep family matters inside the family. Do not hand enemies a rope. Let the girl defend herself if she can. Mason's attorney pressed Rachel hard. Was she angry at her brother? Had Owen influenced her? Had Megan? Was she hoping for financial gain? Was she mentally stable? Rachel went pale, but did not break. I am ashamed, she said at last. That is not the same as unstable. I am afraid of my father. That is not the same as lying, and nobody influenced me to remember what I spent 4 years trying to forget. The judge wrote something down. Frank stared at his daughter as if she had died in public. Rachel did not look back at him again. Megan testified last. Caleb had warned her that the defense might try to make her emotional, might bring up poverty, Owen, Lily, anything that could turn the room's attention away from documents. Megan held Lily's drawing in one hand under the table. She spoke about her work the day Mason accused her, the sheriff's refusal to investigate without Dawson pressure, the jobs lost afterward, the way people stopped meeting her eyes in grocery aisles. She did not make herself sound saintly. She admitted she had hidden partial copies because she was terrified that she had been overwhelmed, that pride had sometimes kept her from asking for help she needed. But I did not steal, she said, her voice clear enough to reach the back wall. I did not take money from Dawson Timber. I did not take money from anyone. I lost my name because a powerful man needed somewhere to put his son's crime. Mason looked down. Frank's face reddened. The judge called a recess before ruling. In the hallway, people clustered in murmuring groups. Some avoided Megan. Others approached with wet eyes and awkward apologies. Megan did not have room for them yet. She stood near a window with Owen, Caleb, and Rachel. Snow tapped the glass. Rachel hugged herself. Whatever happens, I am sorry, she said. Megan looked at her for a long time. Thank you for telling the truth. Rachel nodded, tears spilling. It was late. Yes, Megan said. It was. Then after a moment she added, but late truth still has to start somewhere. Rachel covered her mouth and turned away. Owen watched Megan, stunned by the grace that did not excuse harm but refused to become it. The judge returned after 40 minutes. Her ruling was precise. The evidence was sufficient to proceed with criminal charges against Mason Dawson for fraud, evidence concealment, and false accusation. The court ordered the prior public allegation against Megan Hartley formally corrected in the record and allowed her civil claim for damages to move forward with expedited review. Mason's attorney objected. The judge overruled him. Frank Dawson stood abruptly, then sat when the bailiff moved. Mason's face had gone gray. The room erupted despite the judge's warning. June cried openly. Caleb exhaled for what sounded like the first time all morning. Megan did not move. Owen turned toward her just as her knees weakened. He caught her by the elbow, not pulling, only holding until she found her feet. It's over, she whispered.
Caleb answered because he loved accuracy too much to let emotion simplify law. This part is over. The criminal case begins. But your name is formally corrected today. Megan pressed Lily's drawing to her mouth. My name? Owen's voice was rough. Your name! Outside the courthouse, the news traveled faster than the snow. People gathered on the steps, some clapping, some standing silent, some looking ashamed in ways they had not yet earned the right to display. June brought Lily from the church once the hearing ended. The little girl ran up the courthouse steps and crashed into Megan's legs. Mama, did the judge fix the roof? Megan laughed through tears and knelt, pulling Lily close. Not the roof, baby. What did she fix? Megan looked at Owen, then at June, Caleb, Rachel, and the town beyond them. Something people broke. Lily considered that, then held out both arms to Bishop, who had been released from courthouse exile and was pulling Owen forward with undignified enthusiasm. Bishop licked her chin. She squealed. The cameras from a local paper caught that moment, not the legal language, not the evidence charts, not Mason being guided past reporters with his coat collar turned up. They caught a little girl laughing in the snow with a bandaged German shepherd while her mother cried behind her with her name returned. Frank Dawson collapsed 2 days later. Some said it was the stress. Some said age. Some said God had finally cleared his throat. He was taken to the regional hospital in Boise, and the town talked as towns do, with sympathy, judgment, and appetite mixed into one dish. Megan surprised everyone by asking Owen to drive her there. Why? He asked, not because he disapproved, but because he needed to understand. They stood beside the rental cabin while Lily napped and Bishop dozed near the heater. Megan held a small paper bag with muffins June had baked and called medicinal. Because I do not want Lily to learn that justice requires hatred afterward. Owen looked at her. He does not deserve muffins. No, but I deserve to walk into that hospital without being ruled by him. Owen drove her. Frank was awake but weak. His silver hair flacked against the pillow, his power reduced to machines and a thin blanket. Rachel stood in the corner, startled when Megan entered. Frank turned his head. Shame and pride fought across his face. Pride won first. Come to gloat? Megan set the muffins on the side table. No. Then why? To say I know what your family did to me. The court knows. The town will know. I will not pretend it did not happen, and I will not protect Mason from consequences. Her voice trembled, but did not break. But I am leaving your hatred here. I carried enough that was never mine. Frank closed his eyes. For a moment he looked very old. Rachel cried silently. Owen stood by the door, saying nothing, witnessing. On the drive back through falling evening snow, Megan leaned her head against the window. I thought it would feel bigger. What? Justice! Owen kept his eyes on the road. Maybe it is built small so we can carry it. She turned toward him with a tired smile. When did you start saying things like that? June has been a bad influence. June would say it better. Probably. Megan's smile stayed longer this time. At the rental cabin, Lily ran to the door with wet hair from her bath and a drawing in each hand. Bishop followed, carrying one sock he had stolen from Caleb's overnight bag. The ordinary chaos met them like a blessing. Owen stood in the doorway and watched Megan kneel to catch her daughter, watched Lily press a star drawing against her mother's chest, watched Bishop parade the sock as if returning from conquest. He had thought the hearing would be the summit. Instead, it felt like the first clear place after a climb with more mountains still ahead. Megan had her name back. Lily still needed the truth. Owen still had to prove staying was not a mood brought on by snow and danger. Love, if it was coming, would come slowly. Wearing work boots, carrying groceries, remembering appointments, showing up when nothing dramatic needed saving. That night, after Lily fell asleep,
Megan stood with Owen on the porch under a sky clearing to stars. "I need to tell her soon," she said. "About you." Owen nodded. "I will follow your lead, I know." She looked at him, and those two words carried more trust than any promise she could have offered. Then she reached for his hand, not by accident this time. Spring did not arrive in McCall all at once. It negotiated. Snowbanks shrank by inches, then returned overnight as if regretting their generosity. The lake stayed hard along the edges while the center darkened under a skin of thaw. Roofs dripped at noon and froze again by supper. In that in-between season, Owen learned that rebuilding a family resembled mountain weather more than any mission he had ever planned. There were clear mornings, sudden whiteouts, and days when progress looked exactly like standing still without leaving. Megan told Lily the truth. On a Sunday afternoon at the rental cabin with soup on the stove, Bishop asleep by the door, and Owen sitting across the room because Megan wanted him near but not crowding the moment. Lily had spent the morning drawing stars on scrap paper for the courthouse people whom she imagined living inside the courthouse full-time, like characters in a stern castle. Megan sat beside her on the rug and took both of her mittenless hands. "Baby, I need to tell you something important about Mr. Owen." Lily looked up. "Is he sick?" "No." Megan drew a breath. Owen felt it from across the room. "He is your father." Lily blinked, then she looked at Owen, then at Bishop, then back at Megan. "Like in books?" Megan smiled through tears. "Yes, but real." Lily frowned with the seriousness of a judge. "Did he get lost?" Owen's heart broke and opened at the same time. Megan looked at him. He moved from the chair to the rug, slowly stopping where Lily could choose the distance. "Yes," he said. "I got lost for a long time. Your mama found the way without me. I am very sorry I was not there when you were born or when you were little." "I am still little," Lily said. "You are." His voice shook. "May I be here for the rest of little—" Lily considered him, then leaned toward Bishop and whispered in the dog's ear. Bishop lifted his head, gave Owen a long look, and thumped his tail. Lily nodded. "Bishop says yes, but you have to share pancakes." Megan laughed and cried at once, and Owen, who had once prided himself on not breaking under pressure, covered his face with one hand because joy had found a way around every defense he had left. From that day forward, Lily experimented with names. Mr. Owen became Owen, then Daddy Owen, then Dad for one surprising breakfast when she wanted someone to open a jam jar and did not look up from her toast. Owen opened the jar, set it down, walked calmly to the porch, and stood in the cold for 3 minutes while Bishop watched through the glass with deep concern. Megan found him there and leaned against the doorframe. "You all right?" "A jam jar just changed my life. They are powerful objects. I did not want to cry into the strawberry." She smiled, soft and dangerous to his balance. "Good call." There was no proposal that spring. Owen thought about it, of course. He thought about it when Megan sat at June's back table with Caleb and Priya, reviewing the civil settlement that Dawson Timber finally agreed to after Mason was formally charged and Frank's health made trial by public opinion less appealing to the family attorneys. He thought about it when Megan signed papers accepting damages large enough to repair more than a roof, but not large enough to erase what had happened. He thought about it when she enrolled in online business courses to finish the degree she had abandoned, then stayed up after Lily slept, muttering at spreadsheets with a pencil in her hair. He thought about it when she took over the books for the Winter Canine Rescue Center, correcting Owen's budget with such precise mercy that Caleb said, "Mercer, you have been saved from arithmetic and yourself." Owen thought about it often. He did not ask. Trust had its own season. Instead, he stayed. He turned down an offer from Virginia Beach to run a private security program that would have paid more money than the rescue center might see in 5 years. He told Megan before answering, not because he needed permission, but because secrecy had already cost them enough. "It is good work," she said, reading the letter at the kitchen table. Lily was asleep. Bishop lay under the table with one paw on Owen's boot and one paw on Megan's, claiming joint command. "Yes." "You would be good at it." "Yes." "Do you want it?" Owen looked around the rental cabin at Lily's drawings taped to the refrigerator, at Megan's textbooks stacked beside June's pie plate, at Bishop's blue star charm hanging from the hook by the door. "No." Megan searched his face. "Do not say no because you think I need to hear it. I am saying no because I know what leaving costs now. This center might fail. Then I will build something else here. Here. Here." She looked down at the letter, then folded it carefully. "I am trying to believe you. I know. Some days I do. That is enough for today." The Canine Rescue Center opened in late May on Ray Mercer's old field. It was not grand. It had 2 training sheds, an obstacle course, a classroom with mismatched chairs from the church, and a hand-painted sign June said looked like it had been made by sincere people without design skills. The sign read, "Mercer Hartley Canine Search and Rescue Training." Megan had argued about her name on it. Owen had argued back only once, saying the book's permits grant applications, and common sense had her fingerprints all over them, and leaving her name off would be bad branding and worse truth. She told him not to weaponize marketing. He told her Caleb had taught him. Caleb denied involvement. Bishop christened the opening day by stealing a pancake from the refreshment table in front of the mayor, which June declared a blessing because the pancake had fallen on a napkin and was therefore already compromised. Lily wore a blue dress with white stars and led Bishop around by a ceremonial ribbon for exactly 6 minutes before Bishop decided ceremony was less interesting than sausage. Rachel Dawson came too. She stood at the edge of the field for a long time before Megan walked over. Rachel had moved into a small apartment above the old bookstore and begun volunteering at June's warming room, handling intake forms, because June claimed Rachel's penmanship could redeem at least 3 generations of Dawson arrogance. The friendship between Rachel and Megan did not bloom quickly. It grew like the first green shoots through snow, cautious and easily bruised. On opening day, Rachel handed Megan a small box. Inside was a restored copy of one of the original ledger pages, framed between 2 panes of glass. "I thought maybe you would hate it," Rachel said. Megan studied the page that had once been part of her ruin. "No." She looked toward the training field, where Owen was teaching a group of deputies how to read a dog's change in breathing before a find. "I think I will hang it in the office." Rachel's eyes widened. "Really?" "Not as a wound, as a reminder that records matter," June, passing with coffee, said. "And that cowards can become witnesses if they quit practicing." Rachel winced. Megan touched her arm. "June means that lovingly." "I do not," June said, "but I am proud of you." Rachel laughed through sudden tears, and something loosened among them. Summer came bright and green, then autumn in gold sheets of aspen leaves, and by the time the next winter touched the mountains, Owen had become woven into the ordinary fabric of Lily's life. He attended her preschool Christmas pageant where she played a star who forgot to shine, until Bishop, sitting in the back with a service vest, sneezed so loudly the entire room laughed, and Lily remembered her line. He learned which socks bothered her toes, which cough sounded harmless, and which made Megan reach for the inhaler, which bedtime song Megan pretended not to know all the words to. He and Megan argued sometimes, not dramatically, but honestly. She hated when he went silent under stress. He hated when she refused help until help became rescue. They learned to name those things before they sharpened. Some nights his PTSD still woke him shaking. The first time Megan found him on the porch at 3 in the morning, barefoot in snow, he expected fear in her face. Instead, she brought boots, wrapped a blanket around his shoulders, and sat beside him without asking for details he could not give. "Do you want me to talk?" she asked. "No." "Do you want me to stay?" His answer took longer. "Yes." She stayed. Another night, when a bill from the old cabin repairs arrived with a clerical error listing Megan as dependent beneficiary instead of co-authorizing parent, she went cold and quiet for half a day. Owen did not understand at first. Then he did. Paper had been used to trap her before. He called Caleb, corrected it, apologized without explaining why she should not feel that way. Trust grew in those moments more than in any dramatic rescue. It grew because someone stayed after being corrected. It grew because someone could be hurt without leaving. The proposal came on an October evening, nearly a year after the first storm, when snow returned softly, not as a threat this time, but as a memory made gentle. Owen set a table on the porch of the house Megan had bought with her settlement, not the old, collapsed cabin, but a modest farmhouse near the rescue center with a sound roof, a mudroom built for boots, and a fenced yard where Bishop could patrol his kingdom. June helped cook, and then pretended she had urgent business elsewhere. Caleb drove Lily to the church for choir practice and claimed he had not been bribed. Rachel left flowers on the porch and vanished before anyone could thank her. Megan stepped outside in a cream sweater, hair loose, and stopped when she saw the candles shielded in glass jars, the 2 plates, the wildflowers Owen had picked from the last stubborn patch near the fence, and Bishop sitting beside the table with a small pouch attached to his collar. "Owen?" she said, half warning, half wonder. "If this is too soon, say so." "That is a terrible opening. I had a better one." Bishop ate the corner of the note. Bishop looked away. Megan laughed, and the laugh gave him courage. Owen did not kneel immediately. He stood with her under the porch light while snow moved beyond it, falling on the yard where Lily's swing hung still, on the training field lights in the distance, on the mountains that had witnessed all of their losing and finding. "I loved you when I was 18, he said. "Badly, because I was young and thought wanting something was the same as knowing how to care for it. I loved you 4 years ago, and ran because I was afraid of what that love asked of me. This past year I learned love can be very ordinary and still scare a man to death. It is medicine schedules, court dates, pancake theft budget meetings, nightmares, school forms, roof inspections, and staying in the room when pride gets loud." Megan's eyes filled. Owen took the pouch from Bishop's collar. "I am not asking to fix the past. I cannot. I am asking to build the rest with you, slowly, honestly, and with June interfering more than either of us wants." From inside the house, June's voice called faintly, "I heard that." Megan laughed through tears. Owen opened the small box. "Megan Hartley, will you marry me?" She looked at the ring, then at Bishop, who thumped his tail, then at Owen. "Yes," she said. Then, because she was Megan, she added, "But if Bishop carries the rings at the wedding, we are attaching them securely." They married in December in the small churchyard, after the first heavy snow beneath strings of warm lights and a sky full of slow white flakes. Lily wore a white dress, blue mittens, with new stars stitched on the backs, and snow boots because Megan refused to raise a child with cold feet for the sake of photographs. Bishop did carry the rings, secured in a pouch with 3 knots supervised by Caleb, as if transporting classified material. June cried from the front row and denied it loudly. Rachel stood beside Megan, not as family by blood, but as proof that people could step out of inherited shadows. When Owen kissed Megan, Lily shouted, "Now we are all found!" and the whole yard laughed because it was true enough to be holy. Years later, people in McCall would tell the story of the storm, when a retired Navy SEAL in his K-9 saw a woman dragging a mattress through snow and chose not to look away. Some told it as a love story, some as a courtroom story, some as a story about a dog with a heroic nose and criminal interest in pancakes. Megan told Lily the fuller version when she was old enough. The years of silence, the false accusation, the pride that protected and isolated, the courage it took to accept help without surrendering dignity. The truth that arrived late, but not too late. Owen kept Lily's first drawing from the courthouse framed in the rescue center office beside the restored ledger page. A roof with no holes, 3 stick figures, a dog under a star. On winter mornings when snow fell thick over McCall and the mountains disappeared, Owen sometimes stood by the window and remembered the light going out in the old cabin. Then Megan would come up behind him. Bishop would lean his heavy body against both their legs, and Lily's laughter would rise from another room, bright enough to find the road home. Sometimes God does not send help in the shape we expect. Sometimes help arrives as a neighbor with soup, a friend with steady papers, a brave witness with shaking hands, or a loyal dog who refuses to ignore danger. Megan's story reminds us that dignity can survive poverty, false judgment, and long loneliness, but it should not have to survive them alone. Owen's story reminds us that love is not proved by one grand rescue. It is proved by staying, listening, repairing what can be repaired, and respecting the wounds we cannot rush. If this story touched your heart, write Amen in the comments and say a small prayer for anyone carrying a burden in silence tonight. Share this with someone who needs hope, forgiveness, or courage to tell the truth. May your home be warm, your name be protected, and may God place faithful hearts beside you when the road disappears in snow.